This episode of the Golf Guru Show is brought to you by Enveedhemp.com. As golfers, you know the game creates wear and tear on your body and mind. Enveed CBD products can organically rejuvenate you. They come in 3 varieties: Relief, Clarity, and Relax. Relief CBD products help relieve pain. Clarity allows you to focus on those critical shots. And Relax CBD products are for those anxious golf moments. Right now, I've got an incredible special for you. Go to Enveedhemp.com and use the promo code GURU20 for a 20% discount for life.
It's not what you know, it's what you can prove.
You know how to cut to the core of me, Baxter. You're so wise. But like a miniature Buddha covered in hair.
I want to become a guru so girls will like me. Then I will like myself.
Now, before we do this, let's go over the ground rules. Rule number 1. No touching of the hair or face.
Of course.
And that's it! Now let's do this!
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Is this not why you are here?
What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Golf Guru Show. I'm your host, Jason Sutton, and I am the Guru, where it is my job to interview high performers in the teaching and coaching world, as well as all fields of study, get them to share their best practices, book ideas, daily habits, and stories that have made them successful. Before you do anything, make sure you download this episode and subscribe. Hit that little purple button if you're on iTunes, and subscribe so you don't miss any of the upcoming shows as they drop. My guest on this episode is my good friend Virgil Herring. Virgil is an outstanding coach, a brilliant communicator, but even better person, in my opinion, and one of my favorite people in the golf business. As we've known each other for several years, and we have so many things in common that we discuss on this show. A little bit about Virgil. He is the Director of Instruction at Hensworth Golf Performance Center in Nashville, Tennessee, where he is also the high school coach of the state champion boys and girls team. He's got a fantastic group of kids there that he's coaching. He is a charter member, Golf Channel lead instructor. He has won the Tennessee Section PGA Teacher of the Year Award 5 times and has worked with several tour players such as Brent Snedeker and many, many more. He has his own radio show, which you can hear him on 104.5 The Zone from 7 to 8 a.m. Central Time. And he hosts his own podcast, which I highly recommend you checking out, called On the Verge. And if that isn't enough, he has just put out a new book in collaboration with Vanderbilt legend basketball player and coach Drew Maddox called Elevate, which you can find on Amazon, which is a motivational book. And I highly recommend picking this up and gifting, as this book resonates to more than just golf. So it could be equated to all sports and then really all walks of life. In this conversation, we dive into so many topics, such as the value of using metaphors and stories in our teaching, to technology, how we're using that, mentoring, and then what Virgil has learned from his mentors in the game and in life that you don't want to miss. We also get into a really great discussion on our favorite movies, music, and our personal wine favorites as well for you wine lovers out there. Don't want to leave you out. So you're going to get some great ideas in all 3 of those categories. So this episode just gets better with age and time. So I hope you enjoy this one as much as I love bringing it to you with my good friend, the brilliant Mr. Virgil Herring. Enjoy. Virgil, welcome to the show, man. Thank you so much for taking the time. This is going to be a lot of fun.
Well, I appreciate you having me on, buddy. It's nice to be on the other side of the interview.
That's right. I've been on your radio show maybe 100 times, and always enjoy those little short clips, and I admire everything you do. And we've been friends for a long time, so this is going to be a cool hour, a couple hours, however long this goes. As you know, I'm like you.
I'm free, baby.
Joe Rogan / Tim Ferriss. I don't really care.
Yeah.
But I wanted to start in a place that we often talk about, and it's funny that right before we came on the air, we started talking about our different styles that we have to teach in now that we can't get as close to people and maybe put our hands on them, is using metaphors. So, and the importance of metaphors in our coaching. And I talk to my staff a lot about this, and we sort of go on the EQ side of this, of having the knowledge of the golf swing, but also being able to paint that picture for the student. What are some of your favorite metaphors or visuals that you use? And our buddy Matty Walters had the story about teaching his wife, and the one that you used with her. So you can tell that story to lead off, and then we can discuss it.
That was a very funny moment for me. I told him, I said, "Hey man, just wait until you get married. But that ring equals you're stupid. So everything that you said about the golf swing won't matter as soon as you're married." So they weren't even married yet, and they were getting ready to go to St. Andrews. Actually, they were just married, and she hadn't been playing golf. She had a wrist injury, and they were going to St. Andrews, and it was not going good. And the babe beside me, when we were working together at West Haven, and I just kind of moseyed over, thinking to myself, I at least want to just do a little intervention here, just to kind of calm things down. And she's hitting it terrible, and she's a good player, so she's really upset. And Matt's like, "I've tried this. I know I'm right, but I can't get her to feel it." I'm like, and I literally was totally joking beyond belief. I was like, "Hey, you ever roped some steers? Get up there and just give me a good old lasso that baby up there across the line." And she looks at me as dead as she could possibly be serious. She goes, "How did you know I roped steers before?" I'm like, "I didn't." Literally took it up, crossed the line, ripped it. And Walter was like, "That's it. I quit. I am out." That's really one of the funniest stories I have in teaching golf, because I was not even actually trying to help. I was just trying to ease the tension a little bit. And the next thing you know, it became a legend, and it's now one of the funniest stories here in Tennessee when it comes to learning golf and teaching golf, especially between Walter and myself.
That's awesome. So what are some of the other things? I think I always kind of draw back on just things you've heard some of the legends in the game say, and I think that's why it's important to have stories. It's important to have, those visuals that can resonate with whoever's in front of you.
Sure. So let's just kind of start from the beginning. So at setup, I'll ask people to imagine they're standing on a balance beam. If you were going to make a swing as fast as you could, what kind of balance would you need to have to stay on the balance beam? Pretty good balance. Yeah. So I might use a little foam, like a swim noodle, something like that, to make them stand on it, to make them feel like, whoa, I am way heel heavy or way toe heavy. Grip, left hand, I like them to hold a briefcase in that left hand, or the lead hand. It's really kind of hard to mess that up. It's kind of easy to grip. I did that yesterday, actually, with a lesson. He had never heard that, but he's got a briefcase in his hand 5 days a week. And he goes, I don't ever have that Harley grip on my briefcase. So he had it in his hand. He's like, "Wow, I did a pretty good job here." And it was easier for him to accept that when he got his grip better, because he recognized there's a reason why the handle's like that on a briefcase. So he's like, "Wow, that was pretty cool." Like posture, once again, posture, balance kind of almost go similar to me. I like more of well, it's all dependent on the body. At the end of the day, but I like people to be balanced left to right, front to back. Balance beam becomes my favorite visual there. And then I'll usually push them one way or the other if I sense that they're out of balance, and it's a good checkpoint for them. In the backswing, one of the first things I try to imagine is I imagine throwing a rope around a basketball pole, like you had a little pulley system. And so in that backswing, I want you to feel like you're going to pull that rope back, as and the only way to do that is to pivot. You can't move. You can't have a little lateral to the right. The only way that you can do it is to keep everything centered, and you pivot. It's a really powerful feeling. Now, whether I have to make them turn that immediate, that centered, or stack and tiltish is much more dependent on how they naturally load their body. But I would say that if I have my druthers, I'd like to go with a centered pivot. But that's really my preference, is only because that's about 70% of the people, 65% of the people can center pivot. I have a couple. I noticed that the taller the player, the more they need a little bump to the right. And, not necessarily shorter people, but there are very few people that load on their front leg well, naturally, in my opinion. But there are a lot of people that sway that end up getting stack and tilt words out of me, but just to get a centered motion. But I'm not afraid to teach stack and tilt. I'm not afraid to teach Jimmy Ballard. I just need to know what's in front of me.
Yeah. I saw that drill you're describing is in Chuck Cook's book, Perfectly Balanced Golf from 100 years ago. It was a great book if anybody can ever find it. But he put the rope, or I think it was a rope around an old bag stand, right, sitting in front of him, and then did the back and forth pivot. And I thought that's really cool. And you do it with a chair, or something, with a band of whatever. But
well, Chuck, I mean, if there's anybody that knows anything about how to teach before there was technology, Chuck's about as good as it gets, man. I love that guy. There's no
doubt. Me too.
I love that guy. When it comes to the downswing, E.A. Tischler has these ropes out that are really profound. And I'm a big believer in that. One of the reasons why I like the ropes, because it has so much slack in it that you can't yank it from the top, and you learn that patience to start down. And, it almost feels like that rope stays on your shoulder for such a long time, and that passiveness that I think most of I teach predominantly the better player, and I know that you do as well, to take that early hit out, because once you learn how to hit it, you almost can't wait to hit it. And I try to take away that hit from the top and get them to hit it at the bottom. And that rope, the sensation of swinging a rope, is very powerful, because when you watch it on video, it goes from literally anybody, even a ranked beginner. If I put the rope in their hand and make them swing with speed, so they hear the whoosh out in front of them, they swing. They look like Rory. Literally, they have zero experience. They know how to do it.
Yeah, Dr. Kwan, big on that as well. I know
it's unbelievable how instantly
pretty simple.
Yeah, so I've recently started working with NFL and NCAA football legend Eddie George, and Eddie comes at it from a football mentality, and he's been a hitter. His body kind of comes into the impact area and freezes up, kind of like he's bracing to hit the ball. And when I showed him what like Justin Thomas looks like, or what Rory looks like, he couldn't believe that how many balls he's hit in his lifetime where he felt like he was supposed to end up square at impact versus as open as we need to be. And that rope, I showed him what he looked like with the rope in his hand, and instantly, he went from hitting 6-iron 179 to 226.
Whoa.
No joke. Because that's how much he was bracing. Yeah. That's how much decel he had. And he looks like he could play football right now. He's 46, and he looks like he could suit up. Now, he told me that I might be good for about 4 plays, and then I'd be out for a month, but he looks in very impressive shape.
That's awesome.
And I love that. And the follow through, I don't really have anything that I can think of off the top of my head. I always tell people if they're struggling with how to finish, I'm always saying, I want you to feel like you're going to look up for your ball. Don't look like you're getting ready to jump off a cliff. I got a lot of people that finish with their nose way out in front of their belt buckle. And I'm like, look, you're ready to call it quits and jump off a cliff, man. I want you to feel like you're going to look up for a good golf shot to push their belt buckle ahead of their nose and the follow through.
Yeah.
But really, those are my favorites. Another one I used, I just thought about this. I asked people to imagine if they had a paintbrush in their hand, and I asked them to put a nice coat of paint on the wall, what would it look like? And it would obviously look like that wrist is coming through and dragging it across the wall. But it said, what right now you're doing is you're flicking paint across my house with that right hand flip that you got going on. And I just want you to feel like you're going to put a nice even coat of paint on the wall. And what would that look like? And instantly that right wrist is bent back and their body does the rotation and not just flipping their right hand through the ball. Those are my stock go-tos. I'd have to probably be in a moment for me to remember something else.
Sure.
That would pop into my head.
Those are great. But it's such an important part of what we do. And like I said, now we're using more auditory commands.
Yeah.
Like, you better come up with some way to describe, use a lot of the relatable sports, right? Hockey players or the baseball players, or, sidearm throws, skipping rocks. These are all old school thoughts, right? It's just stuff that you kind of pick up along the way, and we'll get into some books as we go forward. But I want to talk about your new book, because I think this is really exciting that you're doing with Drew Maddox. So talk a little bit about Drew for people that don't know him, because he's not in the golf world, and how you guys met, and then your reason for collabing on this project.
Okay, so this is really kind of one of my favorite stories to tell, because I was invited to a Christmas party 2 Christmases ago, and I showed up late, had a lot of stuff going on, and there was only one chair left, and it was beside this really tall guy. So I plop myself down and I'm like, hey, my name's Virgil Herring. He goes, hey, Drew Maddox. And I'm like, hey, wait a second. Like Vanderbilt, like 3-point dynamo Drew Maddox? He goes, that's me. He goes, nice to meet you. And literally within 5 minutes, we recognized that we were brothers from another mother. And we hit it off. And like, I don't remember talking to anybody that night other than Drew.
Awesome. Yeah.
So I started my podcast on The Verge, maybe June of last year, thanks to you and all of your help. And so we did this podcast, and he is such an awesome basketball coach. Really, he's on the cutting edge of offensive training in the country. College coaches call him all the time, every day. It's pretty amazing to see the list of people like Coach Cal reaches out to him a lot. And so we got talking about analytics and how it's changed basketball and how it's changed golf. And we started bouncing some ideas. And he says, I always wanted to write a book. And I said, well, I've already written one. And I got a publisher. Why don't we just do something together? He goes, why would you do that? I'm like, well, because I've already written one. That was pretty boring. Why don't we do something together? So we came up with this idea. We took 50 words that are synonymous with winning, being a great champion, being a great coworker or teammate, the ability to persevere through difficult times, and coming out the other end, how to assess and process what you've done so that you can improve and start to cycle all over again. So we say, okay, here's what we're going to do. On Saturday at 9:00, let's have a list of 50 words together, and then we'll put it together, and then we'll pick the best 50. And no joke, we had 49 of them were exactly the same.
That's crazy.
So we're almost like we're like kindred spirits, like I said, brothers from another mother. So we didn't have much to do there. So the book it's a collaborative effort between Drew and myself and the purchaser of the book. So we took those 50 words. I write a story about what that word means to me, either as a player, as a coach, or as a spectator of greatness. And then Drew does the same. And then there's a spot for you to enter your word and like what it means to you. So
like
that our book, so that our book becomes your book. And now you have 3 stories to remind you how difficult life can be, or how awesome things can be when you prepare. All those things. And it's a fast read. I mean, I read it total front to back, like in 2 hours and 15 minutes, but it's 212 pages. But at the end of the day, it's a fun read. It's a book that you can put down and you don't feel like you're missing anything because it's just words. So you kind of, there's like finding a table of contents, find the word you're looking for, and then go read a story about something that Drew may have done while playing the University of Kentucky playing basketball when they upset him. Or you can hear something, me at the Masters with Brant. You just never know what stories can pop up. And those are the things that I've realized that have made a huge difference for the people that have reached out to me about the book. Is like, it's fast and it's poignant, and it gives you a memory that you already know you had. You watched that game. You knew that person. And it allows you to have a level of connection with the book and others. And it makes you easily relatable to whatever the situation is. And I'm really kind of humbled. It's been the #1 seller on Amazon now 4 straight weeks. And we've actually been in the top 20 in total sales of any book in the world for 4 straight weeks. And that's really kind of eye-opening for me. So it's a beautiful moment. We did it for a good purpose, but we had no idea that it would be received like this. It's kind of humbling.
You're doing some book tours, or you're trying to build some speaking around that. And I want to dive a little bit into the process of the book and how you wrote the book, and then also some of your speaking engagements as well. But what are you doing to kind of wrap some marketing around it? Well, coming onto my podcast.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, we're just trying to like organically grow it. At the end of the day, we weren't expecting it to be this big of a deal. But some banks, the banking industry, has really kind of latched on to it, and we're using their mission statement some keywords in their mission statement that are found in our book, Elevated, and we're going to attach it to, and we're just going to be on stage, and we're going to talk about their mission, our mission, the keywords that are tied together, and then tell some very powerful stories. Drew's got some amazing stories of perseverance and, just some spectacular. He's adopted two kids from Africa, and they're just 2 of the sweetest kids you could ever imagine. But the story about how he had to go there to get them, I mean, if it doesn't pull your heartstrings, nothing will. And at the end of the day, those are the kind of things that make you get you fired up about reading it when you hear it. You know, when it comes to marketing, right now we're trying to get my agent to become his agent, so we don't have to deal with this two-headed monster of somebody's getting this and somebody's getting that, and so it's more of that particular piece. But it's so new. We had obviously right now the speaking engagements have been postponed to a later date, but at the end of the day, just knowing that we've made that much of an impact, that people that I don't even know are reaching out to us to have us come speak at their bank, or at their, we're hoping to do universities and high schools and stuff like that too. And it would make sense because I'm the director of golf at a private school, and he's the associate head of school at another school here right beside us, and a basketball coach. So it would make sense that we'd be hitting universities
Sure.
and high schools to pass on our message. And, it's not just about greatness. It's about how to plug through all the difficult times that you have to go through to get to where you want to be. Because it's not really when you end up at the top, it's not a straight line. It's a pretty jagged up down ride until the very end. And at first I thought that it would be important for me to be the fastest to ever get somewhere. But now I'm more to the point of, if I get there, I almost prefer to get there a little bit later so that the ride is extended, because I don't want to be something at age 50 and I still got 30 years left. And now what? I like this journey that I'm on. At first, I probably didn't think that I was going to like the journey, but now I'm fascinated to see where this journey goes, because I've been kicked in the teeth a couple of times business wise, and I came out on the other side stronger and better off for it. And now I know, obviously, I'm not stupid enough to think that I don't need to pay attention, but I kind of enjoy now the different struggles that life provides, because I don't know where it's going to end up. And if my attitude stays the same, I'll keep on coming out the other side. And that's turns out to be kind of sneaky beautiful.
Yeah, it's that adversity and failure thing that we talk a lot about on both of our podcasts is so critical to the success, right? And then building that self-awareness is sort of the result of all the stuff that we've both been through. So I think that's where we share that personal development gene, and that continuous learning gene that we have sort of adopted early on. So where do you think that came from for you? And talk a little bit about, if you're comfortable sharing a few of your failures. I think that's always helpful for the listeners of, how you reacted to it, right? And then how that made you a better coach or a better person.
Yeah. So the first thing is Bill Strasball was my mentor. So when your mentor is the only person to have ever won every award that the PGA offers, and the fifth award that the PGA offers is named the Bill Strasball Award, who's the lucky one? This guy. So
luck is a factor.
Yeah. So I was very fortunate. So I'm in the old school. So I was a business school PGA member. I didn't go through the GPTP. And so he and Tom Patry did our teaching summit. He did two of them. And when I became the president of the PGM club at Mississippi State in 96, I invited him to come do a big teaching piece. And at that particular point, there had been no teachers to come to Mississippi State. It was always merchandisers and other head pros in the business. And I just felt like, if you can't play the game on TV, the next best way to make a living in the game is to be able to coach it at a high level. And he passed on everything to me. I didn't realize that he had leukemia. He kept that very close to his vest, and I went to see him at Columbia Country Club, and he basically gave me everything that he had, copies of it, and then that was in maybe September, and he passed away just short of Thanksgiving. And I didn't know until the last 2 or 3 days that he was the one, he was going to pass away very soon. So that was a challenge for me, but he gave me everything. And when you're around a person who never forgets a name, everywhere he goes, he was a bizarre rock star in the golf world, because everybody loved him. He was like your grandpa. He had a kind word to say, a good good motivating piece to him. But more than anything that I'll never forget, like I only knew him for literally 25 minutes because we got a chance to be with him about 20 minutes each in that seminar. And I saw him a year later and he knew my name. He asked about my mom and dad. He asked, if I had gotten married to my girlfriend that he met when I was there, blah, blah. His memory was ridiculous. And I can't say that that's one of my favorite skills, but at the end of the day, he is what makes me strive to remember people's names because it really matters. Because I remember how much it mattered to me on the other end of it.
Right.
So that's the kind of thing. Yeah. So I think that's a very important, that's a strength. That's the thing that I'm trying to work on every day is how can I remember people's names, family, impactful things that have happened in their life, because it lets them know that I'm paying attention to them.
Yeah. That's the EQ stuff, man. That really, like you said, builds those relationships and makes them trust you, because again, it's without that, I think the information a lot of times doesn't get through until they know how much you care about them. And that's the famous quote, Strauss-Bach quote. We all know it, right?
Yeah.
What else did you learn from him? What else would you say you took from him aside from that?
Well, I would say this. Never met anybody that cared more about how somebody was learning the game. I'd say he and Mike Hebron are in the upper echelon of people that care so much about how you're learning. Mm-hmm. And he was very simple in his delivery, and he was a metaphor guy, and he painted pictures with his words. And he passed on a big piece of knowledge to me. He said that if you want to be better than me, Virgil, I want you to keep your game where it is. At that time, I was probably a +3. He goes, because every time I start to get to start teaching a very good player, I turn them over to Carl Lauren, because Carl Lauren is a great player and I'm not. So if you want to be a better version of me, keep your game really sharp. Now I'm I'm a +1-3, and for as little as I play, that's pretty exciting for me. Mm-hmm. But I can see that my skills declining. I'm 46 and I can't play golf like I used to play golf. But at the end of the day, I'm still comparable. I can still go out and hit shots and do the things that need to get done to play a good round of golf. And I really do believe that has played the biggest asset in my career, has long been that I can play the game.
And you can demonstrate, right? I mean, I think that's an important part of credibility a lot of times with our students. But like you said, if you're teaching good players and they look at you like, you want me to do this? I'm like, well, look, watch, I can do it.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
You can't beat me, then what are we doing here, right? So,
and one of the things that I think that gives me, that has always been something that I've been able to use to my advantage, is the fact that I still hit it about 325. But I used to compete in the National Long Drive, so I still bomb it, and that is still the coolest thing for people.
Sure,
is to watch somebody crush it. And although I'm not like I used to be, I'm still pretty good. I can still move it. And club head speed's like 118, but it used to be 129. So I've seen the top of the mountain and I'm on the way back down.
I had no idea.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, I've used speed to my advantage, both as a player, and then I've taught speed as a fundamental since I got started. I didn't know that it was going to become as sexy as it is right now. But at the end of the day, I just had a feeling that I thought speed was the number one fundamental from the get-go. And I've been teaching it. I've been teaching power and speed forever. And I've been teaching girls the same as I've taught boys. And that's what's got me a lot of my girl players, especially the LPGA players that I've worked with, is they love the fact that I was teaching them to kill it, not finesse it because they're a girl. And I've had a lot of success in that way because I've tried to teach everybody the same, because I don't believe anybody's incapable of reaching their maximum speed. I just try to find the maximum speed for them.
Is there anything you can share with the listeners as far as what do you think the components of what you teach makes your kids or your players go faster?
Well, the first thing I do in any lesson is at the first lesson I'm with anybody, I want them to show me, like, if they had to swing as fast as they possibly could right now, I don't care what it is. I just want to see the fastest move they can make, 10 of them. And I want to see what that tendency is. Is that tendency out to in? Is it in to out? how are they generating their speed? If it's out to in, they're usually upper body dominated. If they're in to out, they're usually lower body dominated. And I'm trying to like match up their deficiencies with the fastest and most efficient moving body part they have. And, so usually, almost everybody that I teach struggles with the proper pivot in the backswing. Even if they're a good player, there's that little drift off the ball that gets them on the wrong side of their right foot, and then they kind of get stuck a little bit. But usually there's a pivot problem, and I'm a big pivot guy when it comes to the backswing. And like I said earlier on, I don't care if it's Jimmy Ballard pivot that you kind of move laterally into your right leg, Henrik Stenson-ish. I prefer the centered pivot like we usually see from a lot of people. And then I also am more than capable, and I love the stack and tilt guys. I just don't believe that it's everybody goes stack and tilt, but I do love their stuff. And I like to pinch off some Jimmy Ballard, and I like to pinch off some stack and tilt and put it into people, because all we're looking for is a balance. As soon as I get the speed close to zero path, I don't want it to be zero. I want to have a knowable trend. Do they want to draw the ball? I'm going to try to keep them 2 to 3 degrees inside out. If they want to fade the ball, I'm going to try to keep them 2 to 3 degrees outside in. But wherever they are compared to where they want to be, my job is to get them to swing as fast as they can and trend in that direction. So I use things that block your golf swing. I'm a big swing noodle guy, stick guy. I use yoga blocks a lot because you can't really hurt them, the yoga block. If you hit it with a golf club, it doesn't hurt your golf club, it doesn't hurt your hands. It makes a lot of noise, but it doesn't hurt anything. And I love that the noise creates a negative neural pathway, and all of a sudden the body does not want to go in that direction anymore. And that's why I love auditory things, that it's not only did you feel you hit the yoga block, you heard it. And that really bothers the brain. And the reason why we have rules in the world, and reason there's yellow lines on the road and white lines on the road, is for us to follow directions. So if we know where we're supposed to be, by and large, most people know where they're supposed to be. I use my foam or my yoga block. I stick it in the way of their tendency. And instead of telling them how to do something, I let them athletically figure out how to miss it, either over it or under it, whatever their problem is. And I've had great success because I don't like to talk much. I talk, obviously, but I'm like, here's what's happening. You're 7 degrees outside in. You do that because you sway to the right a little bit and you start your downswing with your left shoulder headed down towards your left hip. So what we're going to do here, I'm going to put this foam right on your elbow plane, and we're going to swing underneath the foam on the way back, and we're going to swing underneath the foam on the way down. A good visual for somebody that maybe just needs a visual. Zach Johnson is a very good visual of what he'd be trying to feel like. Goes a little inside, up across the line, drops to the inside, and has a draw release. And then I'll try to get them, as soon as they get comfortable with missing the foam, which might take 5 or 6 swings, then it's like, how fast can we do it? Faster, faster. And it might be half speed, 2/3 speed, 3/4 speed. Then we start hitting it again, and then we find out what our speed limit is. And I just find what that speed limit is. And then tomorrow or the next time I see them, we're trying to increase the speed limit underneath the foam or above the foam, whatever their problem is. And that's all I'm trying to do. And I call it my speed limit is balance. What can you balance? And I'm like, I don't care how fast you swing. If it's 130, great. But we can't go 131 if you're going to lose your balance.
Or lose the golf ball.
or lose the golf ball.
Right.
But generally speaking, I find that if people can balance themselves, they're going to hit way more good shots. If they can swing that fast, they're doing a lot of things right. There's nobody that's swinging at it 130 with bad technique. Guarantee that. Mm-hmm. There's just no way, because they may do it 3 times and then all of a sudden their shoulders torn up or their back's torn up. But it's really hard to create that kind of speed with incorrect muscle motion, for sure.
Yeah, I call it playing speed, right? It's like whatever that limit is. I like your terminology there of where they can maintain whatever technique you're trying to get them to do, and then hit the ball flight and control the golf ball, right? So but I like, you got to push them to above the limit, and then bring them back to like, okay, this is what we got to play with. And it's also a good way to see whether the changes you're making are sticking or not, right?
No doubt. Yeah, no question.
I love that. What else are you using? I know you use TrackMan. Are you using a pressure mat or anything that's measuring ground forces or?
When I had the first one that I know of, which was DBS, and all of my tour players hated it. You know, Snedeker told me if I ever put him on again, he'd never come back. I kind of, I know that's way better now than it was then. And I don't use that. I use Gears and I use TrackMan.
Okay. Well,
and
a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot. And Gears has been so instrumental in one. I think both TrackMan and Gears have done a great job of demonstrating that there's no such thing as the on-plane golf swing.
Sure.
And understanding how the body loads and unloads. Those 3D graphs at the bottom of Gears is really powerful when it comes to the kinematic sequence and understanding, especially at a high rate of speed, especially if you're seeing somebody struggle. If you have good Gears information and then they come in and they're struggling, buddy, it is really easy to find the problem. It is really easy to find the problem, especially for the elite player. TrackMan, I mean, I probably, TrackMan told me that they've never seen anybody have more swings on TrackMan than my computer had it. And I've been teaching. I was one of the first people to have one. And whether or not I don't have a TrackMan university degree or anything like that, but I've seen a lot of golf swings on it. Yeah. And it's really, it's totally changed the game for me. People ask me all the time, what's the biggest game changer for you in the golf teaching? Is definitely TrackMan. Not even close. I mean, Gears is awesome, but Gears is, first of all, it takes a little too long for me to get everything up and running. And then you get the information and it's worth the wait. But, people are then, they're looking at the price tag of my golf lesson. Like, well, I didn't do anything for the first 30 minutes. Look at all this information we got. And it's powerful. But when they figure out how to make that faster, buddy, it's going to be unbelievable. And it might be.
I think it's coming. Yeah, I think it's coming. Yeah, that was one of my questions was, we were talking, I know we're jumping around, but that's just kind of the way I do.
It's all right.
And this is great. But one of my questions was about technology and then what you've learned from technology. And I know now you're teaching more indoors. Mm-hmm. And TrackMan has been unbelievable, from what they've done now with virtual golf. I use virtual golf inside and, you can actually do course strategy and decade stuff, which is pretty amazing. So talk a little bit about what do you, obviously it doesn't teach us, but what information have you learned? How's it changed your teaching with TrackMan now and indoor? You can talk about indoor coaching as well.
Well, I would say this, in three years ago, if you'd have told me that I'd be teaching indoors 90% of the time, I'd be like, there ain't no way that a player who teaches the elite players can be camped down inside. Well, TrackMan's had a little something to say about that, and they significantly upped the game with their dual radar TrackMan 4. And that changed the game, because now you're going to start to see, I think you're going to start to see more really good teachers trend toward their own space in like a strip mall. Because we can control the rent, we can control. There's a lot of things we can control there, and then we own the situation. What I've learned is that the more successful I got, the more the clubs wanted to interfere with how much money I was making, and it ended up. It's kind of funny. I've worked at the first job I had was for 18 months, and I got a really good teaching job at the Hermitage Golf Course, where they used to have the LPGA Sara Lee Classic.
Great track.
And I taught there for 5 years. And then my income there basically tripled over 5 years. And that raised eyebrows. Then I went to Gaylord, and very similar things happened by year 5 there. And then I was at West Haven Golf Club, and that was a unique scenario in which new management came in, and they levied the major boom on myself and Walter and a handful of others. That was probably one of the most tremendously stressful moments of my entire life there, because it'd been really nice to be fired for something that I did wrong, but instead it was because of what we were doing and how that was going to interfere with somebody else, and that's pretty disturbing. So I recognize there's a lot of people going indoor and they can control their own situation. And obviously not every club is like that, you know, and I would say the lion's share of people are still going to need to be at a club. But at the end of the day, I see more and more people, the better TrackMan gets at capturing data and capturing golf courses, the less it's going to be absolutely essential to be at a golf course. Because like you said, I've had better success doing Decade on the simulator than I do on the golf course. First of all, because every shot we play takes about a minute instead of hitting the ball, driving to it, trying to find it. If we don't have to look for a ball. If we hit it in the trees,
that's a great point.
So we don't have to look.
Never thought about that.
So I'm doing 9-hole playing lessons in 1 hour. So I'm doing Decade playing lessons in 1 hour instead of 4, and lost balls, and so that's a better value for the client, and that's an important piece. Also, now for anybody out there has followed me a little bit, I'm a big into the brain. So I was very fortunate. The Golf Channel let me do a really awesome piece on Focus Band about 3 years ago. I was one of the very early adopters. You're leading
me right in the direction I want to go. That's great.
So
that's my next question.
So Focus Band, I'm very mental. I'm very big into the mental part of the game and helping people understand how to access the talent they have. And Focus Band was the first thing that ever provided us live up-to-date screening of your brain to let you know where you are. And I've really turned that into a pretty powerful teaching tool for me. I think that the kids love it because it's so techy and it's so awesome. And it's just enough out there that people are like, wow, you can actually tell if I'm in the zone or not. I'm like, yes, we can. And then when I get them into that quiet eye place, and sometimes it takes 10 minutes, sometimes it takes 30 minutes to get people to, that's when they find out how tight they are or how over controlling they are of their swing or their thoughts, and how negative they can be, and how much the CEO, the control panel, that prefrontal cortex is in the way of their success. When I finally get them to that place and they start hitting shots like they haven't either hit in a very long time or ever, they're like, man, I don't hit golf balls in this place very often. And I'm like, the beauty of this is now we can train this just like your golf swing. This brain and how you learn how to access quiet eye on the right side of your brain is trainable, just like trying to make your swing more upright or flatter, or changing your wrist flexion on the way down, or all of it's just the same. We just have to put the time into it. And the beauty of having Focus Band is that it's on your head. You got an app sitting on the floor. I got the phone propped up. You can look right at it. And we can work on the swing and your brain simultaneously. And I double dip my chip in that. And that's where I spend a lot of my time right there.
So share with us some of your techniques, or maybe some of the tendencies that you're seeing with your players that can't get into that quiet eye, or overthinking, carrying too many thoughts into the play box, or whatever, however you want to describe it. Like there's got to be some go-to things. I mean, it can't be just say, hey, stay with the process. There's got to be some tricks that you have.
Yeah, I do. So here's a hack. All right.
Yeah. Perfect.
When I put the Focus Band on and people are struggling to get into that place, I have them come over and look at the screen, the TrackMan screen on my computer. And I start moving the golf swing slowly in slow motion with all the lines up on it. And we go into self-hypnosis when we're looking at our phone, when we're looking at a computer screen, and all of a sudden I start talking to them. I'm sneaky with my NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, so I sneak in on them with a little bit of words. But all of a sudden I'm showing them their golf swing, and then they find that place. I'm like, whoa, here it is.
So you're looking at the Focus Band as they're looking at the TrackMan numbers and stuff?
Yeah, okay. Actually, I'm looking. We have the audio feedback on. They're not looking at the screen on the Focus Band. They're They're looking at the screen to see their golf swing. And as I start talking to them about their golf swing, quiet eye shows up, and it does it every single time. I'm batting 1,000 with it. So anytime I have trouble, I try not to go there because it's a hack. It's a cheat move. I try to get them to access it without it. But there are some cases where there are people that have been traumatized by golf, and it's really hard for them to let go. And when they
deep, man, sometimes.
Yeah. So I sneak in the back door a little bit, get underneath the hood, and start banging on the engine from the inside. And then really great things happen. And Stephen Yellen and Dr. McCabe and Dr. Rob Bell, all three of those gentlemen have done such an amazing job in helping me with my terminology the words that I should use, the places that I should be taking people. I always say, like, Dr. McCabe is the greatest at helping somebody who is struggling.
He's the man.
And Steve Yellen is the greatest I have ever seen to get you to understand how to access your talent. So he's the best at telling you how the brain works. And Dr. McCabe is the best at helping you understand why your brain's not working or what it is that you're doing to not allow you to do what Stephen Yellen's getting you to do. Those two in particular have totally changed my career. Dr. Rob Bell is a very good friend of mine, and he is awesome at motivation, finding the right words. And he's like a totally different ingredient to my mental piece. But those three guys are spectacular when it comes to helping me help you with the words.
Yeah, and that's one of my topics was mental side and performance, and you led me perfectly into that. Is the difference, as we talk a lot about in our teaching circles, the difference between teaching and coaching, and this has to give you that edge as far as that coaching piece. So can you give us a little bit more detail on some of the language that we should be using when we're coaching the mental side?
Well, each person's different, but generally speaking, let's just go. Let me start from like a ground zero. It's like if somebody comes in and it's a mental situation, they want to understand the mental game. The first thing I'll do is I also have Halo Neuroscience. So Halo Neuroscience is neuropriming, which just gets the brain ready to learn and allow you to store up to 30% more muscle memory in that session than you would without it. Now, I have no way of measuring whether you get 30% or not, but keep in mind, if the Olympians are using it and the football players are using it and they're strongly encouraging it, I'm all in. So I get people there. And then from there, where it's more of a, I want to hear what they're saying to themselves. So like I'm asking, I want you to pretend that you're Jim Nance. I'm going to be Nick Faldo. You're Jim Nance. What are you saying to yourself as you walk up onto the tee?
That's good.
Where does that come from? That comes from the original sports psychologist, Chuck Hogan. Chuck Hogan would ask all of his players to imagine, what would Ken Venturi be saying right now if you were walking up to your shot on the 14th hole at Augusta National? Ken Venturi never had a bad word to say. He'd be like, okay, right here, Greg Norman. He's going to start this ball at the CBS eye here at the tower. He's going to draw it in there. Greg's one of the best players in the world. I expect him to hit this shot within 15 feet. Here we go. When he hits the shot. And whether it did or it didn't, Ken Venturi was teaching us how to think while he was on the microphone. And I thought that was profound. So Chuck Hogan did this video. It was like Peter Jacobson, Johnny Miller, Mike Reed, and there was one other, 4 people in that video. And they all talked about trying to be, what would Ken Venturi be saying as I walked into the shot? So obviously Ken Venturi is no longer with us. So I have to use Nick Faldo or Paul Azinger.
Sure.
And I don't think that they're as good as Ken Venturi, but they're really good. I'm not saying that. But Ken Venturi was the GOAT when it comes to analysis and the way you'd want it to be done. And so I'll be like, so that like you could hear to me that, oh God, I don't want, like, first thing I see is the water on the left. I'm like, well, and I get the, I'll give them the funnel of focus from Dr. McCabe. Be like, yeah, you saw that first, but why aren't we thinking about what exactly we want to do first? Mm-hmm. That's something we're programming right now. So I want to hit a draw off of the left edge of the bunker and draw it back into the fairway. Oh, at 315 yards, there is water to the left, and there's some serious sloping that would make the ball roll into the water. So I'm going to choose to not hit driver here. I'm going to hit 3-wood. I'm going to hit the same draw off the left edge of that bunker. And what would a good shot look like? Now, they tell me what it's going to look like. And I said, what would your body need to do to make that shot happen?
I was going to say, then you get into like what they're actually thinking about they need to try to do, right? So you're teaching them how to talk to themselves.
That's right. And then get them the concept in their head. Get the concept in their head. Mm-hmm. Because your brain is in control of everything. And you would never be trying to hit a shot you can't hit. So you're getting up there and you're like, if you're a person who only fades it and only has the ability to move it left to right, and I hear, I'm just going to start this off the left edge and hit a draw, and they're like, You and draw, the only time you and draw have ever been in the same sentence is that when your third grade teacher said no drawing on your desk. That's the last time drawing was. So I try to get them to be realistic. But if they have the ability to move it both ways, I'm wanting them to talk to themselves as if they were the announcer was talking about what they were getting ready to do, always glaringly positive. See the shot that they want to hit. Rehearse the motion required to hit the shot. And when they've rehearsed it to satisfaction, commit to that feel. And then Debbie Cruz, probably another legend in the mental game, has proven that we have 90% access to feel at 8.5 seconds from the time you commit. 8.5 seconds is a long time.
That is a long time.
So you see it, you rehearse it, you commit, don't waste any time. So for those of you out there wondering, like, what's been going on inside this noggin up here, watch how fast Brant Snedeker plays. I taught Brant for 8 years, and a lot of Debbie Cruz's information came out at the time that I started working with Brant. Brant does a lot of his pre-shot behind the ball. All like from the time he's calling, by the time the caddy gives him his number and they discuss the shot, all kinds of time has happened behind the line, behind the think box, play box. He's in the think box way more than he's in the play box. But when he steps in, he hits it within 8 seconds every time. Every time. And we worked on it unbelievably hard because he did a lot of things. Like if it was a minute between the time he got to his ball and the time he hit it, it'd be like 20 seconds in the think box and 40 seconds in the play box. And I got him to make it like 55-5. Like do all these rehearsals and things behind the line.
Right. That's great advice.
And as soon as you get in there, don't let anything else creep into your head other than what you committed to. So the faster you do that, the better off that's going to be. And so I do a lot of pre-shot routine work as it pertains to.
You're doing that with the focus band on them, and that gives them that's how you train, or you have something to measure it, right? Which is fantastic.
So I use that a lot, as in like, so we want to do this, and there's waffling between how important quiet eye is throughout. But generally speaking, it would be very good that just before you take that club away, you find that place. And I try to keep them in there as long as I possibly can. If I can get in there as they walk into the ball, hallelujah, But I don't let them hit until they can access it. And the more they practice it, the better they get. And it's a muscle. And it can get stronger and it gets better. And the more people buy into how much it helps, the more they buy into it, the better they end up playing. And it's amazing. And just, think about it. It took Jason Day 14 months to go from essentially quitting at Augusta National to being the number 1 ranked player in the world. He nearly quit because he had the driver yips. He could not keep it on the planet with his driver. And then 14 months later, he became the number 1 player in the world. So if that's not enough to make you think, and Justin Rose as well has been, and there's a lot of guys that use it. They don't want their name. They don't want to be thought of as a weak person who needs help mentally, but those days are coming to an end as well. I think more and more people are accepting that. But I think that when people understand that Jason Day and Justin Rose, they were 2 of our best players in the last 15 years that had really deep struggles, and how the struggles get into the brain. Because our brain tags memory with emotion. And generally speaking, because people that practice a lot have high expectations on how good they're going to play, they only emotionalize the negative. They only emotionalize the negative outcomes. So their tour players' memories are full of bad, not good. And only the elite, Jack Nicklaus and Tiger, in my opinion, have a large library of great. And they don't really think about the bad. Short-term memory. Yeah. And I think that's really important for people to understand. Like Jack Nicklaus on the underneath side of his yardage book had the greatest shot he ever hit with every club in his bag. So that's the last thing he thought about before he walked in was, and think about that list of great shots. Like the 1 iron at Pebble Beach, 6 inches on 17 that won a U.S. Open. I mean, at the end of the day, that's a nice memory to go into a shot with. And to be able to do those things, those are like little things. I would probably say 1 in 10. I tell that story to nearly everybody, and 1 in 10 will write down their best shot that they've ever hit with each club in their bag. And the good news about that, it can change because it'll constantly evolve.
Right.
And I always ask people, like, how vivid can you get? What's the best low drive you've ever hit? Low fade you've ever hit? What's the best high fade you've ever hit? The more graphic the visual you have, the more beautiful the painting you picture, and the more beautiful the shot you hit. And although that sounds a little hokey, it's indisputable, irrefutable, and it always becomes the key to my players' success for sure.
Yeah, I think there's a lost art in teaching visualization to our players. I mean, I think it's difficult, but I mean, there are players, and I know you've ran into some of them that have a tough time with that. You know, they're so internal that they have a tough time seeing a picture. And obviously it's like a video game, but then they look at you like you got two heads, like, I don't see anything.
Well, right? when I see that, the first thing I do is I take them out on the golf course and put them behind a tree. They visualize it pretty quick.
Yeah.
Here, how you gonna fade it around this tree? And you don't fade it very good. It's amazing how amazing big drawers and hookers of the golf ball can fade it around a tree when a tree's right in front of them. And I'm like, well, what happened there? And they're like, well, it really was difficult for me. So I had to visualize what I wanted. I had to kind of imagine what it was going to feel like. I'm like, I think that's what we just talked about. And so, like, sometimes you have to come in the back door. They have to tell themselves. And it's, that's one of our challenges / gifts, is that when our words aren't resonating, then we have to let our words become their words so that they can tell us what we need to hear. Like, oh yeah, that's exactly right. 100%. You have figured it out, and let them think it's their idea. And the better the player gets, the more it has to be their idea. Yeah, that's right.
Right. I mean,
very important.
Do you recommend, like, your kids, and I want to get into your coaching here in your high school team a little bit too. Do you recommend them keeping journals or taking notes?
Yes. I think that there's irrefutable evidence that if you can journal, I tell people all the time, why wouldn't you write down all the great things that you did today? Mm-hmm. Because this game is hard.
There's something about writing down too. Like, it's not just putting it in your phone, which I do. I mean, I keep list upon list upon list, but if I don't journal, like, it doesn't resonate. There's something about that organization that I know there's studies done out there all the time that have proven that fact.
But one of the things I'm big into, if you're not willing to do it based upon my recommendation, I'm not willing to ruin your day to make you do it. If you don't want to be great, that's your choice. You're paying me to help you. Me making you journal is not going to make you journal. If you don't want to be great, you're not going to be great. And it's, at the end of the day, I'm always trying to push people 5% further than they've ever gone, not 30. And if I can get them 5% at a time, I can get to 30. But I can only move them 5% at a time. And that's the big key for me, is the journaling piece is critical on two fronts. One is because we only remember the bad, because we practice so much that good is now what we expect. So we don't celebrate good. We just celebrate, like, we celebrate holes in one. We celebrate double eagles. We celebrate occasionally, like, 4 irons that go to 4 feet or 3 feet. But we don't really, nobody ever is like all fired up because they hit their lob wedge to 2 feet. They're like, I'm supposed to hit it to 2 feet.
Yeah.
Expectations. Expectations are the cancer to this game, cancer to life, probably.
100%.
But I mean, at the end of the day, I would try to get them to remember the 3 greatest shots they hit that day. Write them down, as much detail as you can give me. Think about one thing that you want to do better tomorrow based around today's actions. And write down 3 drills or 3 ways that you're going to work on that tomorrow. And if you have a hunt, like, my first book was called The Golf Journal, and it was essentially a stats book in which you kept your stats, and on every 3rd page, I gave a lesson. So there's like 72 lessons in it and 140 pages of very deep statistical breakdown. It's a rudimentary handwritten decade system. And when you write it all down, your good rounds, let's say if you have 100 rounds and there's 16 of those rounds are awesome. I can guarantee you I have not yet seen any of my players that have my book that chronicled it. All 16 rounds say the same thing. What they thought before they teed off, how much time they gave themselves before they teed off, what they ate, where were their confidence levels in their game before they teed off. And I'm like, no, here's the thing. You have this book right here provides you with your roadmap to greatness. Not everybody's roadmap to greatness, yours. Everybody is different. There are certain familiarities, but I've found that when you write down your rounds, the bad rounds tell you the same story that your good rounds do, your tendencies. So I'll just use me as an example. My driver is my double-edged sword. A driver is what allowed me to play the greatest golf I've ever played, and it's also what's allowed me to shoot the highest scores I've ever shot while competing. And the game has never been easier when it comes to driving the golf ball, I can tell you that. But nevertheless, I learned all of my 14 victories as a professional. 12 of them have a very low confidence level in my game as I step on the first tee. So I have no interest to stand on that first tee and swing driver like I can because I'm afraid I'm going to hook it. So I'll tee it low, choke up on it, and kind of hit a healer out there and play. And I'm just like, God, I just hope I can find this. And then I'm like, all right, I'm just going to hit a 7-iron in the middle of the green. And then I get a par. And then I do the exact same thing. And look, every single time my expectations are low off the tee is when I've played my best golf because I overestimated in my youth how good I drove it, and I underestimated how good of a middle iron player I was. And I was trying to hit the ball as far as I possibly could to get wedges in my hand because I was a pretty good wedge player. But oftentimes it would lead to 66-80, 68-80, because I would, for every great round of golf I'd play by driving it awesome, the next day it would not be so awesome. And so my best rounds of golf as a professional, 12 of those 14 tournaments were stepping onto the tee and be like, God, I just hope I have enough golf balls in my bag, and I hope to gosh that I can hit this ball in play and then go find it. And every single time I play with that mindset, I've played well. And I now have, that's how I go about it. Even if I am driving it good, I'm like, God, I just hope I can put this in play. And it's amazing how much better I play because I have my own personal roadmap. I know what makes me play the best golf I can play. And that's why I'm a better player now than I've ever been with significantly less skill available to me.
It's a lot of mental stuff, isn't it? It's a lot of self-awareness.
It is a lot of self-awareness. And I wish I'd have been this aware at 20, at 20 or 21. I mean, obviously everybody says that. I mean,
everybody says that. Yeah.
But it's
your
humbling.
Advice. Yeah. The question about your advice to your 18-year-old, 20-year-old self. I mean, it's just, there's a reason, 18-year-olds aren't very smart.
Yeah.
They just haven't experienced it. It's like you can't experience something that's never been there.
So one of my driving forces to my life is God blessed me with a lot of talent. I'm very fortunate. I've always been able to hit it really far, and I've been a pretty good athlete. I may have been a better pitcher than I was anything. But at the end of the day, I didn't make it to the places that I wanted to make it. And now I understand why. So I live my day every day to make sure that these kids have at least one step further to go than I had, because I didn't know how to handle myself emotionally and mentally through failure in my youth. And now we have technology to help us measure that, help us guide us through this. There's so much information. I think we've probably learned more about the brain in the last 10 years than we knew in the previous 1,000. And that's really powerful. So if I can prevent kids from struggling like I had to struggle, that's a winner for me. That's what drives me every day. Yeah.
So that's a great lead into talking about your new role now as a high school coach, right? At a very good, with a very good team. You guys just won the state championship. So talk a little bit about your team and that situation. And then the question I had was just, what are some of the things you've learned from coaching a group? Because I mean, my son plays college golf, and I talk
Mm-hmm.
to his coach all the time. I would not want his job for a million years to have to basically, deal with 10 different personalities and 10 different types of kids and how to coach them differently. So talk a little bit about that. And then I got a question about your AD, your mentor.
Yeah. So quickly on what it's like to coach a team. First of all, coaching just short of 2,000 lessons for 18 straight years. I was in significant search of something different so that I could still do what I do, but to get out of the turnstile, to just cranking out the exact same thing over and over and over again. And at first, the adversity of losing my job at West Haven for no good reason at all, and put me into the position to be able to accept the job at Ensworth. And I think that if I would have been able to stay at West Haven and they still would have come to me, I still would have taken this job. But I was so in search of, I know that I really probably shouldn't be trying to be this midlife crisis and stop teaching golf and go get into real estate. But I knew that I don't think I want to teach 2,000 golf lessons every year. What can I do different? And now I get this 10 hours a week for 45 weeks, plus or minus a couple, of showing 14 boys and 6 girls how playing golf as a team, we still haven't figured out a moment in which the best decision for the team wasn't the best decision for the player. And I can argue, I know of one particular scenario that was the case, that it was a better situation for the player than it was for the team. And it worked out in the player's behalf, so it also worked out on the team's behalf. At the SEC Championship in 1996, Mississippi State was tied for the lead with 1 hole to play, and Mike Connell, All-American, 2-time All-American at Mississippi State, was in the middle of the fairway. And the coach pulls up and says, you're going to lay up in front of the water, and you're going to hit it on the green, give yourself a chance for birdie, and give us a chance to win. If not, we're going to go into a playoff. And he goes, no, coach, if I'm going to go for the green in 2, and if I make birdie there, I win, we win. And he goes, well, if you hit it in the water, then you lose, we lose. So back and forth they went, and the coach drove away. You're going to lay up. And he hit 3-wood to 18 feet, made the putt for eagle, and he won the individual, and Mississippi State won the SEC championship. But it didn't really work out well for him after I got back to Starkville. And that's the only time I've ever seen a scenario like that, where what was best for the team wasn't best for the individual. You could argue that that's the only that might not even be the actual case. It just worked out that way. But every single time I'm trying to get them to understand how decade works. And I believe that's why we won the state. We have a very, very talented team. I believe that we probably have 11 or 12 Division I boy players here.
Wow. That's a lot.
And yeah, and we probably have the best female athlete in the state of Tennessee here. Now she's going to go play lacrosse at Stanford, but she could play golf anywhere, really. But she's going to play lacrosse at Stanford. And so I'm very blessed because I have a lot of talent. So that I have to make perfectly clear that I landed on this job rounding third, so to speak. But we take it very serious. My biggest challenge for sure is the fact that in high school matches in Tennessee, 5 play and you count 4. Well, when you have 11 superstar junior players, my dance is to get them all in. It's kind of like Coach Calipari and his 10 freshmen that he brings in every year. I got to get everybody playing time. And when it gets to the NCAA tournament, you start to see who the best players are because they stay in the game longer. So I don't really put my opinion on my team. I let the scores dictate it. I'm fortunate right now. I have a good enough team that if whoever the best 5 are, I know I'm bringing a really good team.
I was going to say, qualifying has to be a nightmare.
Qualifying is very stressful for them because, like a perfect example is 2 years ago, I had a boy finish 6th in the state. This year, he had a lower stroke average than he had the year before, and he finished 11th on the team. Think about that.
Crazy.
So that's this is a rising tide raises all boats scenario. I make everybody aware that generally speaking, the only high school event that matters is the state championship. So what we're actually doing here is this is a 10-week program to get them ready to compete at the national level in the big tournaments for them. And it just so happens that at the end of all of this, there's a big state championship, and I take the lowest 5 scores. I don't put my opinion on it. Like, I think even though this guy's got the 8th lowest score, I think he's a better player under the gun. I don't go that route. Now, at some point, is it possible that I might be put in that situation? I leave that door open. But as long as I have this much depth, it would be unfair of me to apply my opinion when we have 24 rounds of golf and it all comes out in the wash. That's what I've done. I've had great success, and the kids love the fact that it's right in front of their face every day. They know where they stand. They know what it looks like. And do they get a little pouty as we get down to the home stretch and they realize they're mathematically eliminated? Yeah, they do.
Yeah, I was going to say, you got to deal with that side of it, I'm sure, is the most difficult.
It is the most difficult, but my point is that do you think it's going to be any easier going to college?
No, it's the same deal.
It's the same deal. So you're very fortunate. You get a head start on the struggle.
Yeah, I was going to say, it sounds like you're coaching a college team, basically.
Yeah, so I mean, that's the thing is I'm very fortunate to have this great school. It's really Ensworth is I call it the Taj Mahal of education. I've never seen anything like this. We have an Olympic swimming pool. We have like almost your Flushing Meadows for tennis, and we got this incredible teaching facility here with 3 TrackMan, Gears Golf, Sam Putt Lab, TrackMan putting, 2 brain technologies. But we can measure everything except the bunker shot here. So at the end of the day, we have it all. There's no question these kids don't. We have our own TPI trainer. We have a great training. We have an NCAA training facility at our high school. So the kids have the best of the training, the best of, and if they get injured, they have the best care. We have all the information you could ever want to learn how to play great golf. They have a coach that cares and does his very best to stay at the top of the game at every level of technology and understanding. And we have a golf course. The Golf Club of Tennessee is where we practice and play. That's an amazing place. And I'm very fortunate to have a ton of talent. So that's a very good recipe to make some good players.
That's crazy. So you win the state championship.
There's a great story here. So this is pretty funny. Yeah. So on the 9th hole of the second day, my senior and the guys, he's going to go to play University of California, Santa Barbara. Julian Maxwell comes off the 9th green. He says, "What's the scoop, coach?" And I said, "We're up 14. So there's some tricky holes out here. We already have our game plan. Just stick to your game plan. We don't have to do anything fancy, but don't play scared. Don't play tentative. Be committed to your conservative targets and just rip it." So the Tennessean comes up to me and says, "Hey, can we do an interview with you?" I'm like, "Well, there's still 9 holes left to play." Because I know, but I got a lot of coaches to interview, a lot of players to interview. Can I just get yours out of the way? So I reluctantly did the interview. And by the time I checked the coach's app, our 14-shot lead was down to 2.
Oh.
And that was like 20 minutes. So the first thing I do is look at my kids' scores. So I'm getting ready to go out and strangle somebody because they made a 10 or something. Well, I look at my team is even par on the front 9. So I'm like, that's weird. How could somebody make up 12 strokes in this short amount of time? So the school that finished second, MBA, that's where Brent Snedeker went to school. It's the school that Dead Poet Society was based around. It's an all-boys school here in Nashville. And I've probably taught more kids that went to that school to play college golf than I do at Ensworth at this particular point. And I look at them, and every player on their team eagled the second hole.
Oof.
And 3 of them birdied the first hole. So only 4 of their kids, only the 4 of the scores count. So not every eagle counted, but they were 12 under through 3. Hello.
Oh,
that'll get your attention.
Yeah,
so I lost like 6 years of my life as my guys shot all 5 of my players shot +1 total on the back 9 with that kind of pressure. And that is a testament to Scott Fawcett. That's a testament to their willingness to hit the right shots. And it's a testament to myself and the staff that we had here doing insanely intensive game preparation and knowing that our schools never won a state championship. for boys golf. We have one girls golf championship. And there's a lot of pressure because we have a lot of talent. And I'm like, if you think that your first championship is going to be a cakewalk, you are greatly mistaken. We are going to be in for the fight of our lives because, first of all, we have a target on our back because we're Ensworth. And two, we've never won one. And you know that. The pressure is pretty powerful.
Yeah. Right.
And the fact that we played so admirably under that kind of heat, and we withstood a boy who's going to the University of Virginia. His name is Jaron Leisure. NBA kid, shot 62 the final round. Wow. And he almost single-handedly beat us. Really. He shot 62, 10 under par. And we ended up winning by 2. We held on. And it was it was one of the coolest atmospheres I can imagine for high school because both schools allowed the golf teams to come up and watch. So I had all of the golf team, even though if they weren't qualified to play. Yeah, the student body was coming, NBA student body, teachers. I mean, it was a reasonably sized gallery for 14 to 18-year-olds to come down the home stretch on. And it was, I'm absolutely positive, even for the NBA kids who I still teach half of them, it was a moment they'll never forget whether they won or they lost because all 10 of those kids played their guts out that day. And it was so beautiful to watch. And being a coach to so many of them, it was beautiful to watch how hard they worked what they knew and how they trusted what they had learned because so many of them played the greatest round of golf they've ever played. And obviously all credit goes to them because they're the ones that did it, but it was what they allowed themselves to trust that they've learned over the years under the ultimate test. And it was beautiful to watch for sure. It's one of my favorite stories too.
Well, yeah. And providing them with something like Decade. I mean, not too many high school teams have that opportunity, which is fantastic. So kudos to you.
Yeah. Scott came here last summer but when he comes and does a presentation, you're in about 8 minutes. If you don't already know that you're not going to win an argument,
yeah, that's right.
You're not going to win an argument. Exactly. And he has so many tour players' data points, and he does a great job. He's the greatest researcher. He and Lou Stagner are like setting the whole new trend on data,
no doubt,
for golf. Right. So he comes in and then he says, "Here's what I did. I took every shot that Tiger Woods hit in the ShotLink era, and I one shot by one shot, I graphed them until we got to the point where the PGA started to graph them. I guess that was in 2012, I guess, when ShotLink kicked in. Mm-hmm. So he did it all himself by hand. And he says, listen, Tiger Woods hit 72% of his shots on the fat side of the green pin high. And then that's what we started. And then we started to look at all the other tour players that won since the ShotLink data. And guess what they do? They all hit between 70 and 72% of their shots on the fat side of the hole pin high, roughly speaking. So what are we going to do? We are not going to take on unnecessary risk until we have no other choice. And one of my lines, these kids get so tired of hearing it, but I just believe this. We are going to shake the hands of the people that beat us. We are not going to look in the mirror to see the people that beat us. Yeah. And if we're going to lose, it's going to be because we forced somebody to play way more aggressive than they wanted to, and they got lucky enough to pull it off. It is not going to be because we gave it away. And I'm big on that. I can't stand the thought of these kids losing because of their own decisions. I have no trouble with us losing. I have no trouble with us losing because somebody shoots 62. If we would have lost, I'm like, buddy, we got to go shake that kid's hand. Because he essentially just beat us by himself. That is awesome. But we came out on the other end of it, and that's the great piece there is having Scott be able to come here, them buy in, all in. Like I said, if he comes to see you, you don't have much of a choice. You're all in because it's so profound, the documentation that he provides. You buy in, and it changes your game instantly. I haven't seen anybody's game not improve significantly early by applying Scott's teaching. For
sure. So talk about the meeting with your athletic director the next day. I think this is just such a great lesson on so many levels. You can share with that I mean, I know it meant a lot to you, and you learned a lot from this meeting.
Yeah. Well, first of all, our athletic director, Ricky Bowers, is a legend. So, I mean, he's in the Basketball Hall of Fame as a basketball player at Lipscomb University. He's in the Sports Hall of Fame as a basketball coach and as a football coach. He's a legend. He's won 26 state championships. Hello. I got one. Between he and I, there's 27 of them. Good job, Coach.
Nice.
So we go have this meeting the day after we win the state championship, and everybody wants to get rings. It's a championship rings because we won the state championship. So he pulls everybody together and he says, "You know why I hate winning state championships?" And like, literally, if you'd have seen 14 kids' jaws fall to the floor, it was hilarious. But I had no idea where he was going at all.
Sure. Yeah.
Boy, this is a strange way to start a celebration. That's what's going through my head. He goes, "The reason why I hate winning state championships is because we come back and have this meeting. The first thing everybody wants to talk about is what are we going to get?" Well, here at Ensworth, we're not thinking like that. We're going to think about what are we going to give? Because we wouldn't be here today without the sacrifice of your parents, your grandparents, whoever taught you the game, whoever taught you how to hold on to it, whoever taught you how to swing it. So we're going to write a list of all the people we need to be grateful to and thankful for. So it was hilarious. He's like, "Toby, who are you grateful for?" I don't know. Well, we're not leaving here until we start getting a list going. And they start talking about how grandpa got him started in golf, how grandma used to take him because mom and dad both would take him to the golf course at 7:30 and pick him up at 5:30. And then he goes, "Now let's not look for the obvious ones. Who else makes your job? Who else made your road to the state championship easier?" And then they started thinking about the person who cleaned their clubs at the country club that they were a member at, and the person who drove them to the back of the driving range when it was raining. And it was really kind of cool. They all started to dig way deeper than mom, dad, and coach.
Yeah.
And it turned into this really powerful moment where he says, "Well, what are we going to do to give back?" And what we're going to do is we're going to have like a Ryder Cup-ish. We have so many players. Our team school colors are orange and black. So I have an orange team and a black team. So I'm going to have a Ryder Cup scenario where we have the middle school golf team, which has won the state championship for middle school 6 years in a row. Excuse me.
Sorry.
And we're going to do a Ryder Cup where each person is going to get a chance to play with the middle school kid. Nice. And we're going to teach them. They're going to teach them what they've learned and how they can carry the flame as they get to the high school. They can carry the flame and win more state championships.
Mentoring, right?
Mentoring. Yeah. Them a greater responsibility. And the orange and the blacks. That's a school tradition. The school gets broken up into orange and blacks, and there are some people on my golf team that were oranges at the school and are black on my golf team. I don't really care about that particular piece.
Yeah.
But it creates this neat little vibe. I try to do it as evenly as I can. And they play, and because we have to wait till the fall to do it. So we'll do it this fall. We'll have a little Ryder Cup, orange versus black, where the varsity plays. And they take a middle school kid with them, and they duke it out and have a blast. So it'll be fun. But that's
such a great exercise, man.
It really was amazing.
I mean, what leadership you have. I know you think a lot of Mr. Bowers, and just to be in that moment. I mean, you're going to be able to share that story with, other kids, and maybe it'll give them a little more gratitude towards their swing coaches when they turn pro and win a tournament.
That'd be nice. I can
right?
Oh, I know that, but
us occasionally to get a shout out, and it doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, it's interesting. That's a whole other conversation. That's a rabbit hole in all to itself. Yep. But I think that, first of all, the greatest gift that I have here at this school is not this awesome teaching facility. It's the fact that every day Coach Bowers comes in and talks to me about how to be a better coach today. He's like a second dad to me. He's totally one of the greatest human beings I've ever met. He might be the greatest human being I've ever met. And I'm the lucky one for that. And how much he cares about everybody. He's the coach's coach. He loves to coach everybody. And that's the greatest gift that I have here for sure.
Yeah. So let's switch gears a little bit there and go back to books.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's always a good subject. I mean, what are some of the books? And I know we got hundreds of golf books, but what is that?
Oh, that's my. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. That's my printer, if you can believe it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've just heard it go off. It sounded like a garage door opening.
Yeah, I just took care of that problem.
Yeah, that's right.
So I have a variety of. So I break it down into a bunch of golf swing books. I think Nick Faldo's Swing for Life was one of the best books that I've ever read when it comes to the golf swing. I believe the Jim Hardy's, The Plain Truth was really revealing to me. Yeah, the original one was pretty profound for me. Mm-hmm. I don't think there's any doubt that John Jacobs deserves a lot of credit for his book that he did. And another book that I love, and I really do think Nick Bradley is one of the best coaches in the world. Nick Bradley's book, The 7 Laws of the Golf Swing, not only create awesome visuals, but its
pictures are pretty good, aren't they?
Yeah, the biomechanical understanding that he had prior to biomechanics being understood at a golf teacher level. He's one of my favorite people to talk to. He's genuinely one of the most giving people to the information that he's had, and his books are amazing for the golf swing.
Yeah.
I mean, there's
what about other fields of study or leadership or personal development, anything? I know you and I are both big Goggins fans.
Yeah. So Dave Goggins' book was really good. I think he's actually better when he speaks than he is in his book.
I saw him speak live, and
you did?
I did. Yeah.
How was that?
It was incredible. I mean, me being a wannabe endurance athlete,
mm-hmm.
or I did until I hurt my knee. I just know him backwards and forwards because I've heard him on podcasts and listened to interviews, and I asked him a question that he probably blew his mind for like an old white fat guy that was in the crowd. That I asked him, I go, what's next after he did all his talking? And I said, what's next for you? And I go, and I mentioned a marathon that nobody really knows about. And he goes, how do you know about that? He goes, I can't talk about that. But it's just it's a crazy thing. But yeah, he's an incredible person.
Yeah, he and Jocko Willink, two former Navy SEALs. Jocko resonates with me a little more than Goggins does in a book. I think Willink writes a better book, and I think Goggins is a better speaker.
The Warrior, what is the
Way of the Warrior?
Way of the Warrior, yeah.
Yeah, and his other book, which is basically just taking responsibility on yourself, everything,
mm-hmm.
and that's the thing that matters to me is like, what are they passing on? Like, these guys are the best of the best in their field, and so the discipline that they have. Obviously, there's not that much that's completely relatable to golf and being a Navy SEAL, but the parallels of metaphors of mental toughness that they have to go through are very similar. And it's a lot more impactful to these kids when they were like, well, I want to be tough. And they're like, well, I don't think I can be tougher than Jocko Willink. What would Willink do right now? Yeah. What would his words be? Extreme ownership is what is Jocko's deal. So I'm a big believer in that. I think that, of the mental books that I've seen, With Winning in Mind by Lenny Basham gives an outrageously awesome game plan for mental management. Dr. Brett McCabe's The Mindset Manifesto was very good.
Go. Yeah.
Very, very good there. For short game. I think Stan Utley's books were really good. I'm a big Stan Utley. I've done a lot of golf schools with Stan Utley.
Mm-hmm.
I like the way he passes on the feel. I think Dave Pelz deserves a lot of credit for his short game Bible. I thought that was really well done, the short game Bible. His putting Bible was a little too much for me, and then it didn't take long for that straight back, straight through thing to get shot out of the sky.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff in there that doesn't
match up anymore. But when he first got popular, the information that he had was, groundbreaking. It's just that it didn't happen the way he said it, and he kind of lost a little bit of his luster with that. But his short game book was really good. Dave Stockton's books are pretty good when as it pertains to the short game and putting. But what's so funny is, like, I wouldn't say that I teach Stan Utley's or Dave Stockton's putting method.
Right.
But what I did is I learned them both. And for people that block their putts, shove their putts, I give them a little Stan Utley. And for people that get a little too releasey, there aren't many of those, but I'll give them some Stockton.
Sure.
But with all this technology that we have today, it's better for us as teachers to know all kinds of methods that's my opinion, than it is for us to lock down on a method. I'm just not a big method guy. And I know that Fawcett would tell me, oh, you got a method because it's what you like to see people do.
That's a preference.
But that's I'm like, I almost enjoy. I have a preference. But man, I tell you what, I might go 2 months without giving a stack and tilt lesson. But whenever chance I get to do one of those, I have so much fun because it's so different. And it's something that I don't do, but I know the properties well. Those guys, their videos, that video system they put out when it came out, that's the best instruction video I've seen done.
I thought, well organized.
Oh man, those guys are awesome. They get a lot of criticism, and I don't really agree with all this negative self-bashing between teachers. I respect everybody because I've learned if I get one thing from somebody, I'm better than I was when I got there.
Right.
And
you give them credit.
And I give them credit. I really think I've never hit a shot that I can think of stack and tilt. But by golly, I've watched it work, and I love teaching it because I've never done it. But it's really helpful to know the properties because when I see a front leg loader that naturally just does that, it's a beautiful thing.
For sure. So what advice are you giving the young coaches coming up now? I think that's a hot topic that I always like to cover on this podcast because so many young teachers are coming, whether it's the PGM student that figures out he wants to teach full time, or it's the young coach that just wants to get better. I mean, what advice are you giving those young folks?
Okay. So this is just basically from what I've learned. So it's just my beliefs. If you want to teach golf, you better understand that there's two people that are going to keep your wallet full: junior golf and elite golf. Because parents will spend any amount of money they can to get their kids the greatest coaching that they can get. And the core golfer, the elite playing amateur tour player, will spend any amount of money they can to keep their favorite pastime going. I would tell anybody that I think that they should consider their career very dangerous if they're going to build their career around beginner golf and introductions to golf. I know that that's a very important part because it gets people started. But as soon as the economy turns bad, those people are out. As soon as things get tough, they're out. And when the weather gets bad, they're out. So that means that you're left teaching very little. Now you're struggling. So Bill Strasball told me, is if you want to make a living, here's what I can tell you. You can make it through the Depression if you're teaching kids how to play great golf and you know how to get a better player better. But you can't make a living off of people that don't really care, and they're kind of doing it to play either with their husband or play with their kids. They're the first people to leave as soon as there's any sign of trouble. So I'm trying to get them to understand what it takes to coach great players. And I really think it starts, you gotta be working on your game to understand how to pass on that information. You got to have your game in a good spot, because at a certain point, words become empty when you can't also imagine it. If you've not ever done it, it's really kind of hard once you move past the talk. Kind of reminds me of the movie Good Will Hunting, when Robin Williams is talking to Matt Damon about, I bet you can just spit out this information on the Sistine Chapel, but you ever been inside to smell it? That's the difference. I mean, you have to be able to, at some level, to perform a flop shot. You have to be able to perform a low checker. You have to be able to hit a draw with a short iron and fade with a long iron in your T-ball. And you got to be able to demonstrate proper lag putting skills from 40 feet and how to knock in weak side putts from 5 feet. If you can't do that, you're going to lose the good player. If your technique is not reputable, the good player is going to watch you do it and like, I don't know if I can trust this. That's the first thing. And then there's so many great coaches out there that will, like, I don't charge people. If they want to come watch me teach, they can sit there as long as they're quiet. I don't charge them.
Yeah, me either.
I'm not a big believer in, it's not my information. Like that's how I look at it. And Joe Mayo is the same way. Joe's like, what are you talking about? This is not my information. I just read it. I'm a hodgepodge of 400 golf instructors that I've taken what I like and put it in my front pocket. So they didn't charge me. Why am I going to charge you? So, I mean, I don't charge anybody to come see me. They can come watch anytime they want. They can ask me questions. I try my very best to be the best leader that I can be. And I never turn down a phone call. I never turn down helping people. That's just not who I am. So I'll do anything I can to help somebody.
That's great. I mean, that seems to be a common theme. You got to go see people in person.
Yes.
Obviously it's easy to get to us, via online when we have time. And I try to answer all the DMs and videos and stuff that I can, but I mean, go spend the money and go watch somebody and spend some time with them, because you're going to get their best stuff and you're going to get the vibe, like you said. And do it on FaceTime.
Yeah, I'm one of the things that I'm a big believer in is I need the lesson. I don't want to watch it. I want to pay for it because I want to experience the feel of what they're trying to get.
Be the student and go take a lesson too, right?
Yeah, because I know that there's value. I mean, I can't tell you how much I've gotten from watching Rob Akins. Rob Akins is really one of the most unique teachers in the world. He sees the golf swing. If I see it white, he sees it black. I mean, I'm telling you, I've learned so much from this guy because how he attacks a golf swing, I've never thought about attacking it that way in my lifetime. And he's my favorite person to go watch. And I've never had a lesson from him, but I'll watch that guy teach because like where he goes and how he gets there, I'm like, holy cow, where did you come up with that? I love that. But I love, Stan Utley showed me so much in the short game. My goodness. And in some ways, his magic is when he puts his hands on you. It's not so much his words, it's when he puts his hands on you. You're like, whoa, man, I don't release the club like that through the ball. That was pretty cool. And that's what I need, because as soon as I can feel it, I can really translate it. Because as soon as I can feel like what my trail hand's doing, I can also see what my hips are doing. And what are my knees doing? And what's my hands doing? And where's my head? Where did it start? Where did it go? All of those things, because now he's a big hands guy, but somebody that I teach might not be able to feel their hands at all, but they can certainly feel where their hip is. And for me, that's the important part, is like words go in and out of my fingers pretty quick. But if I get a chance to experience it, that's the power. And of course, there's 25-year-old kids that, well, I don't have $300 to come see you and get a golf lesson. I'm like, I get it. I get it. But I mean, at the end of the day, you get into it what you put into it. Right. If you have to wait a couple of years to save up money so that you can go see a teacher that you want to go see, it's going to be more valuable to you than $300. I am absolutely positive of that, because you'll be able to give that lesson for years. And if you're charging $60, that lesson, you'll probably make $4,000 in the first 2 months on that lesson. So you paid $300 and you get $4,000 back. And that's what it's all about. So
I know you're being around kids all the time now. You're like me, trying to stay up with the pop culture and the younger generation. And I know you're a movie guy like me as well. So give me a couple of movies that have influenced your life or your career, and maybe we can talk movie quotes for a second.
Well, like I have my big movies. I think Gladiator is the greatest movie ever.
Love it.
I think Forrest Gump is a 1B. Those two movies are 1-2 for me. Good Will Hunting is another spectacular.
Yeah, you mentioned that earlier. I love that.
That's a great movie. And like, if I need a good laugh, it might not be politically correct, but I'm here to tell you, Wedding Crashers is the funniest thing I have ever seen. Yeah. And Vince Vaughn literally is my favorite person to watch because I love a good rant. And man, that dude can rant like anybody. So those are my 4 favorite movies. But obviously I've seen thousands of movies.
Yeah.
But those are my go-to movies. And like, to me, the greatest scene in any movie ever is when Joaquin Phoenix walks down into the pit in Gladiator and asks Russell Crowe to take off his helmet. And he turns his back to him. And that part is just, it gives me chills. I've probably seen it 85 times. Yeah, and if it were to show up on TV right now, I'd have to tell you to pause because it's the coolest thing. It gives me chills because, man, that is defiance on the norm, and the desire to stand up for what is right is being lost in our country. And I love to watch people stand up for something. Yeah. And in that particular moment, yes, it's a movie, but it is so powerful because we have all been wronged. We have all kind of followed along with what we were told, and then that ended up not being such a good idea. And that's where we learn a little bit of resolve and to stand up for yourself. But that's the one of the most powerful things that I watch, that I use whenever I need a little something to get me through a difficult challenge. Like I said, it's a movie, but I didn't have to face the kind of challenges that he had to face. And he stood in there with the kind of courage that was fearless. And that's how I kind of like to live, would be knowing that there's danger, but I'm not afraid of it. I'm going to face it. And that's gotten me a long way. And I got a lot of that from that movie for sure.
Yeah. So what are some of your go-tos when you get stressed out or unfocused, overwhelmed in your life? Any go-tos or tips or tactics you can share?
Movies or anything?
Anything. I mean, like that's one of I just made me think about it. Like for me, I love movies because I love the escape, their escape from reality somewhat, right? To kind of give you a couple hours of just kind of getting away from whatever you're dealing with. Is there anything else? And it can be movies for you too.
Yeah. I'm a big music guy.
Yeah.
Music
we
runs
get into that too.
Now my favorite band is the band that's kind of brought rock and roll back to the forefront, which is Tool.
Love it. Alternative. Yeah.
I love Tool. I love the message that they bring. I love the style that they do. They're very thought provoking in their lyrics, and I try to be thought provoking in what I do.
Favorite song?
No, actually,
what's your favorite song?
My favorite song is "Push It" off of the Salival album, which is a live, slowed down acoustic version of "Push It." Okay, but they're off their new album. Numa and Tempest are challenging Push It for number 1. The new album is Fear Inoculum, is as good as anything I've heard, if not ever, in quite some time. And their music kind of is transcendental. It kind of takes me into the zone, and it's meditative for me because it makes me contemplate. Mm-hmm. Eddie Vedder and Pearl Jam do the same. I'm a big Pearl Jam fan too, and their new album comes out in 2 weeks, which I'm very excited for. And it's nice, Pearl Jam and Tool kind of come out with music at the same time, so I get to double dip my chip every time they do something, which is fun. And I love good music. So I've seen Pavarotti live, and I've seen Tool live a bunch, and Pearl Jam a bunch, and I've seen 2 bands when they were at the very top of the world. I've seen Guns N' Roses a bunch when there was nothing else other than Guns N' Roses for a while. Yeah. And I saw Pearl Jam in '94 a couple of times when it was so big that it was literally insane. Like, that was even more insane than Guns N' Roses. But that energy that you get when you go see a live show, when something is that hot, is amazing. And the acts can feel it too. And you get that, and that's where I get my recharge. My recharge is mostly music. And we do share.
Anything new? Is there anything new that you think would be even close? Because I'm a big rap guy, or old school rap guy, and the new stuff just there's very few things in the new genre that moves me like the old stuff. Is there anything in the rock genre for you?
Well, look, outside of those two, I like Chevelle. I think Chevelle is like an underrated band.
Stained, you like anything but Stained?
Stained. I mean, Stained to what I called suicide music. When you listen to them, you feel like you want to jump off a cliff. But I mean, they're very talented. Aaron Lewis is very talented, and he's kind of does his own thing now, and that's really impressive.
I can't believe he's doing country now.
Yeah, he's
kind of weird.
But he's here in Nashville, some,
Yeah, I figure.
Yeah, and he's very talented. I love Coldplay too, but I'm interested here. Like, to me, rap, and I love rap too. There's just some rap. I think Eminem's the greatest rapper of all time. I don't think that anybody's even in the jurisdiction of Eminem. But
he's good. Yeah.
But I mean, as a lyricist and a storyteller, and the quality that he delivers, man, forget it. But I think Tupac is awesome. But I would say the only person that comes close in the first 3 albums, Kanye West. Kanye West's first 3 albums would challenge Eminem and Tupac in quality, in like what he was saying, like his message was very impressive. Now, I think he's gone off the reservation.
Yeah, he's in a different place now.
But my goodness, was he? Those first 3 were spectacular. I've never been. I mean, I respect the heck out of Biggie Smalls, but the Notorious B.I.G. Yeah, take him or leave him. I wouldn't sit here and say that I have like a gigantic playlist of Biggie, but there are songs that I like about him. Who do you like, man?
The old stuff. I mean, it goes way back. I mean, I highly recommend the documentary they just did on Netflix. It's unbelievable. They went all the way back to like Grandmaster Flash and then forward.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's incredible. But yeah, Eric B and Rakim. Rakim was my guy.
Yeah, Rakim's awesome.
He was great. I mean, Run DMC. You were just talking about, when I found rap, it was in the 80s, right? So I mean, middle school.
You like the Beastie Boys? You a big Beastie Boys?
I did like the Beastie Boys. Yeah, and then there's a ton of really good Caucasian rappers out now that people don't even realize. I mean, Logic, I think, is
there you
really
go.
good. Yeah. I mean, he's mixed, but I mean, there's a lot of new stuff that's
you like
out.
Macklemore?
But yeah,
you like Macklemore?
It's okay. It's okay. That vibe sometimes is not the best. I mean, Tribe Called Quest.
Oh yeah, Tribe Called
Quest. All that. Like that kind of stuff was really, really influential in my life.
My first, I mean, I liked Run DMC when Raising Hell came out, and they collaborated with Aerosmith, whatever. But I really got into the Beastie Boys, and then Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre and the Chronic, followed by Doggy Style. Those two, Snoop Dogg for a while. Snoop Dogg for me was the man. Now his message was a little politically incorrect, but when you're 19 and 20 years old, he tells some funny stories in his music, man, and he resonated with me. But now I'm more cerebral, which is why I like the good songs that Eminem has done. He's done plenty that are,
his new album is really good. I thought the last one, I can escaped on the name. The last one I thought was not as good. I don't know what was going on there. He was trying to make a comeback. This next one is really good, and he collabs with a lot of great artists as well. Yeah. A lot of features on that one.
I think the Eminem Show is the greatest rock album.
I think it's awesome. Yeah.
I think that's
big M fan. And 8 Mile is one of my favorite movies that I tend to watch every time it comes on.
Yeah, 8 Mile Road and Lose Yourself are probably as good of rap songs, and that's when he's at his best. When he's not spitting hate and he's telling his life story, there's nobody better. I just think that, and I think when Tupac's telling stories of pain or love, Tupac's hard to beat too. But when he's telling stories about that, you almost have to be from LA to understand. He loses me because I'm not from LA, and I can't sit here and tell you that I know what it's like to live where Tupac came from. So I don't resonate with him. Man, he tells some stories, they're just amazing. I love when the superstars step away from the violence or the hit back and forth and tell a story about themselves. That's what makes it special to me. And I think that, in my opinion, Tupac and Kanye do the best at that. If I need a good laugh, I'll get some old Snoop Dogg or Dr. Dre going when it comes to a good laugh while I'm listening. But that's my stock stuff right there.
Yeah, I love it. It's good stuff, man.
Do you like country music at all?
Not much. I mean, my wife's into it. I mean, now I will tell you this, man. I was driving to, I think I told you this on your show, where we were driving to St. Louis to watch Nick play in a college tournament, and we stopped in Nashville and stayed the night. And that was one of the funnest nights. I mean, we probably hit, I don't know, 10 or 12 bars, and like, seems like every single bar had just incredible, talented artists. And it wasn't, I mean, it's kind of, I guess, pop-ish, country, as I would sort of say. I like the old stuff. Keith Whitley. I mean, I love the classics probably better than some of the new stuff that.
I would say I'm limited to like the beach country, like Kenny Chesney, the 2.0 version of Kenny Chesney, Zach Brown.
Yeah, Zach Brown, love Zach Brown.
Yeah, but I mean, I do like Chris Stapleton. I think he's a genius in what he's doing. But I'm like, and I respect the heck out of George Strait, but I can't get George Strait down. I call George Strait grape nuts. I can handle a spoonful, but you give me a whole bowl, I can't do it, man. I can't do it.
Yeah, I mean, I saw a bunch of country shows back in the day. I mean, there's been several that have been pretty good. Did you see
Garth Brooks? Did you see Garth yet?
I have not seen him live, but his old
it.
stuff I thought was fantastic. Yeah, I mean,
he's an unbelievable entertainer. He's great.
Hank Williams Jr. I saw him live. It was probably one of the best rock shows that I've ever. I mean, and he sang so much more than country. Did a lot of Skinner. Did a lot of some old classic stuff. It was just fantastic. But just stuff like that. I mean,
the only time I've seen Hank Williams is when he came out with Kid Rock. That's it. That's the only time I've ever seen
my gosh.
No, that's it. That was a show. Kid Rock puts on a heck of a show too. I was kind of surprised.
I can imagine. That's cool, man. So let's close with our typical Billboard quote. You got to give me your mantra, your favorite quote that you would put on a gigantic billboard that would get out to billions of people or the world. What would it be?
No, there's a lot that goes in. There's a lot that goes into that. So I'm going to find it because I think it's really, really good. And it's really important for me to pass this on. This is a great question. And when I find it, I talk about this all the time. Here it is. A dream written down with a date becomes a goal. A goal broken down into steps becomes a plan. A plan backed by action becomes reality. That is what I've put into my life. And I don't know how I got it. I mean, my dad instilled it. I mean, it comes from my dad, but I figured that out when I was a junior at Mississippi State. And I'm a big dreamer. I mean, if anybody from that listens to this knows where I'm from in a very small town in Pennsylvania, people didn't go to college where I come from back in the early 90s. And then I'm going to be a golf instructor. And I'm going to make an impact doing that. And I'm like, whatever, and I'm like, and nobody in my family's ever played golf. So I had to do all of this out of a dream. And then I don't really think that was sitting in front of my face, but I had a lot of people help me and says, what do you want to be? What's it going to take to get there? Take a step.
There you go.
Take a step.
Move
action. Forward. Take action. Yeah. Because if you don't take action, there's a lot of people that talk, but a lot of people
talk is cheap.
They don't take action. And I try to tell people all the time, move. Because you would be, this is an absolute fact. As soon as I did that, just to appeal my mentor who was helping me, I just took action. He said, here's the beautiful thing about taking action. If you go too far, you can come back a little. If you don't go far enough, you can see how action's taking a huge help in your life. But if you don't ever take the first step, you never know. So you just know that if you just take one step forward, you're doing more than 90% of the people out there. But you'll realize after that one step, let's take another one. and take another one. And then you're like, man, why would anybody ever stand still? Don't be afraid, man. Take action, because anything that happens after you take action, you're now so used to taking action, you just take a different step.
Creating momentum.
Yeah,
so I'm big on that. If you want to change a habit, like you said, one step. Don't think about the 100 step. Just think about the first one and then the second one, and next thing you know, it starts to become a new habit.
Yeah, the impossible is achieved by accomplishing one tiny goal after another until you get to the impossible. For
awesome,
sure,
man. I feel like we could go on for a couple more hours. We'll definitely have to do a part 2. We didn't even get into wine. I got so many things.
Oh my God. Well, I mean, as long as you don't have a limit, I can talk wine. I got nowhere to go, baby. You got to get my sweet spot now.
We can go. Yeah, we can dive into it.
Well, I mean,
give me a couple of your faves.
Now, I have done an extensive amount of wine studying, and I got introduced to it at Mississippi State. Mississippi State had a wine appreciation class, and it was one of only 2 at the time that you could actually drink it. You didn't have to spit it out. Virginia Tech and Cal Davis had to spit it, and I can't remember the school. No, Cal Davis and Mississippi State were the ones that you could drink. Virginia Tech and another school had it where you had to spit it out. So I would say that we studied every region. The teacher was a top 100 wine taster and a top 100 chef. It was awesome.
Sweet.
So our first class, he told us what we were going to do. We're going to study it by region. He was going to cook the food from that region, drink it with the wine from that region, white and red. It was unbelievable. And it was a hard class. And I know it sounds like it's kind of crazy, but there's a lot of chemistry that needs to be understood to make wine. And that was what we had to know. And I never took chemistry before. So it was a very, very challenging class. And I made a C in it, but I made an A in tasting, baby. There you go. I learned, I cut my teeth when I was on my own money. I cut my teeth on the really, at the time, like in the mid 90s, Shiraz, the Australian Shiraz were coming to America. And for like $17, you were getting some big bang for your buck, whether it was Shotfire Ridge or Penfolds Bin 389. It's kind of funny. Bin 389 in 1997 was $19.99. I was cruising through the wine store the other day. $69.99. I
was going to say, it's not that.
That is insane.
Yeah.
So there's so much great wine out there. So then I moved to Bordeaux. I got lucky when I started working with Snedeker, and Snedeker ended up bringing a lot of tour players. I was doing a lot of cool stuff, and I didn't have any kids, and I was able to get some wine, and I got into Bordeaux in 2000. The 2000 vintage of Bordeaux was at the time maybe second only to 1961, and I absolutely bought as much as I possibly could. I still got 11 cases of 2000 Bordeaux at home, but then it's kind of funny, like in that movie that Paul Giamatti was in, Sideways.
Yeah. I got the top 3. Let's go top 3 wine movies.
Oh, well, that's
3 for me, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
And I think I really like the series that Netflix did on the Sommelier.
Oh yeah, that was fantastic. I'm just talking about just movies that sort of include wine.
I don't think that I don't really have a large arsenal of those.
Bottle Shock.
I've never seen that.
Bottle Shock is my number 1.
I got to check.
Well, it actually might be 1A. A Goodyear.
Never heard of that either.
Oh my gosh, you got to go watch a Goodyear.
Believe me, in the next couple of weeks, we got plenty of time to sit around and watch TV. Right. I'm going to be checking those out. That's awesome.
Yeah, and then Sideways is probably like 2B.
Yeah, because Sideways, I never really that got me into Pinot. And I just found it hilarious.
Yeah, me too.
The thing that was so interesting about that movie was
and off Merlot.
Merlot business. The thing that cracks me up about Merlot in that whole movie was the fact that he was saving the whole movie to have a 61 Cheval Blanc. What was that? Merlot.
I know.
It's so funny.
Ironic.
And that's the thing that it makes me laugh that I didn't know much about Pinot. So then I started to understand Burgundy. I still say, although I've had some great Burgundies, the Grand Crus, and they're staggering, but I don't know if I'd pay $800 for it.
Yeah,
I think New Zealand Pinots and Oregon in the Willamette Valley, those
Oregon,
two,
I think is my go-to. If I see an Oregon Pinot, I'm always going to try it.
Yeah, they're very good. But I'm here to tell you, if you get Tamuna Road Pinot out of New Zealand, oh my God, so good, so good. And I get a bunch of Meiomi given to me, and Meiomi's it's got 20% Syrah in it, which is why it's got a bigger backbone. But even for the money and what you're getting out of that, that's not a bad bottle of wine. It's kind of funny.
Yeah.
But Pinot Noir is pretty interesting. But now I love Spanish wine. I love Italian wine. I love Barolo. I love Brunello di Montalcino.
You sound like you got the same palate as me. You like a little spicier wine, occasionally, a little pepper, a little leather, just not a big fan of the big, sweet, smooth finish sometimes in most of my bottles. Caymus Cab's kind of my go-to.
I never liked that.
Really good. I'm like you.
The greatest Napa Valley I've ever had is Schaefer Hillside Select. Schaefer Hillside Select is the greatest American Cabernet or Bordeaux blend. It's all Cabernet. That's unbelievable. And Joseph Phelps Insignia, I've had a bunch of those. That's very good. But I still think Schaefer Hillside Select is the big dog in the house in America. But the greatest wine that I've ever had, it's a tie, because there are two. I had them when my boys were born. I had a 95 Mouton that was on my oldest son's, the day of his birth, with my wife's mother and myself and her brother. And I had a 1991 Latour that was so good and make you tear up. It was every sip tasted different. Yeah. It was the most profound wine that I can recall, but because they were so different. Like you read all the ratings from either Parker or Broadbent or the guy suckling from Wine Spectator, and you hear like Mouton's classic smell is the pencil shavings, like a freshly sharpened pencil. When you put your nose in that glass, you just cannot believe that you just feel like you're in third grade and you went to the pencil sharpener and it was full and you had to empty it out. That's exactly what it smelled like. I couldn't believe it. And, and then you get like another one that's got a very powerful guaranteed scent to it is in Napa Valley. There's the eucalyptus that is in Silver Oak. The eucalyptus.
I've had that one.
Silver Oak it's unbelievable how like the spearmint and the eucalyptus that you get in a Silver Oak from Napa Valley, not the Alexander Valley, the Napa Valley. It's hilarious. And I just love to like immerse myself in all these experts' breakdowns and then go, if I get a chance to have them, to see how good I am or how good I'm not. But it's an art. And I look at like, it really is. I use my wine love to make me a better golf teacher. And I know that sounds kind of crazy and corny, but if you experience multiple vintages of Virgil Herring, I'm a much different teacher in 2020 than I was in 2015. That's but right. I've had students. I probably have 25 people that I've taught since 1999, and they've seen multiple vintages.
Yeah, when you have students that long, like I don't think they understand that we're always evolving.
Yeah,
just like like be like, oh, you told me this 15 years ago, or whatever. I'm like, my mind's changed on that deal. Like it's, we've got an updated version here, 2.0, 3.0, Guru.
That's exactly right.
I don't believe that anymore.
I think that's what I try to parallel to it is like, I have stock wines that I buy and I love to see the difference and how it evolves, how there are certain similarities, but there are certain differences, especially when the winemakers change, like Stag's Leap Wine Cellars, when Winiarski left and they got bought by, I believe, Antinori. I think the Italian influence came in. Mm-hmm. The wine changed because they brought a little bit of Italy and their winemaking there into and now that there's Italian wines have more acid, so they're much better for food. You don't really drink. You don't find too many people drinking Italian wine as like their glass. They're just sitting around having a glass of wine. Italian wine, generally speaking, is a food wine.
You need to have food, yeah.
Yeah, because the acidity generally it's way better for food because it's so acidic.
I tell people, I was like, if you start like, how do I get into drinking wine? I'm like, you just got to start drinking it because it's going to taste different, and then when you start adding food to it, it tastes even more different. Mm-hmm. So there's definitely an art to it. So the movie I was just told you, Bottle Shock. You have to go watch that, and then Chateau Montelena is the vineyard. That's what the movie's about.
Oh, cool.
Part of it, and that's one of my favorite cabs.
Man, that is a great Cabernet right there.
I can't afford it, but my building relationships with your students is important because then they know what you enjoy.
That's exactly right.
So they bring me, they when they have milestones or breakthroughs, typically I'll get a bottle, and I just got one just a couple of days ago, and I'm like, that's way better than money for me.
You got that right. There's no doubt about it.
I've got 2 in my cellar now that are just waiting for a special occasion.
Me. I'm going to save you. I'm going to save you. Oh, it's so funny. Have you ever had Ernie Els's wine?
I have not.
I'm here to tell you his South African Stellenbosch Bordeaux blend. It's as good as anything I've had. It's it's right around $90. Okay.
Yeah.
But back when I got it, it wasn't $90, but it's escalated in price like everything else has.
Yeah.
He of all the golfers, his wine is so much better than the next best, which I would probably call Greg Norman's Reserve Shiraz, which is really good. But Ernie Els's proprietary blend is off the chart. It's so good. So it comes with a red paper wrapper, and it's his proprietary blend. It's a Bordeaux blend. It is. I've had a case of every vintage up until the flood, which wiped me out on 2010 here in Nashville. That's basically when my collecting days ended, was during the flood, because it was such a. I lost my house and my business on the same day. So it's a hard situation when you lose your house, but when you lose any way of making any money, that ended. I mean, I still get bottled, but I mean, I haven't gone on any kind of collecting binge since 2010. Yeah.
I drink it too fast. I have tough time collecting.
And it worked out perfect because right now there's probably never been a better time to drink wine that is $50 quality at $19 to $25 than there is right now. It is.
Yeah,
it's so good.
$30 bottles. There's so many good ones out there.
I don't know how. It's to me, it kind of reminds me of the golf industry. The 2 people that are making it are the really cheap, good, fun rounds of golf. We got one here in Nashville called McCabe. It's 3,000 yards per 9 holes. You can shoot a really low score. You can walk it in an hour and 30 minutes for 9 holes, 3 hours and 18. They get 87,000 rounds. Wow. That's a volume business. And then you have Pebble Beach and Bandon Dunes, right. The high end. You do not hear stories about golf courses making it in the $66, $80 range.
Yep.
They're either people that are needing the monetary assistance and they're willing to pay $15 to go play a nice Muni and whistle around in an hour and a half for 9 holes, or they're willing to go for 5 days and go to Pebble and play Pebble and Spyglass and Spanish Bay and Cypress Point if they're lucky and whatever, or they got the Bandon Dunes and just, if you ever wonder what happened to Virgil, and you start to get concerned where he went, go to Bandon Dunes first and look there, because that is, to me, it's the greatest place I've ever been.
It's on my list.
It is so good. It's so good. So good. What's the favorite golf destination you've been to?
I haven't traveled as much as you would think. I mean, I tell you that a couple of my favorites are right here in North Carolina. I mean, Grandfather Mountain, Diamond Creek. Yeah, Diamond Creek is fantastic. I mean, it's a hidden. It's not hidden. It's hidden for a reason. Yeah. It's ultra private, but I mean, we love doing that. I love Secession down in South Carolina.
Really hard. That's really hard.
It's such a good place. We always went to one of our vacation spots is Fripp Island, which is on the other side of Beaufort. Yeah. So every time we get down there, me and Nick would always go to Secession. Mr. Harmon take care of us, and we go caddies only. It's just pure golf. It's so cool, man. Good. Yeah. So
I've not been to Pinehurst yet. That's Pinehurst.
Yeah. I take for granted all the stuff that's real close to me. That's an hour and 30 minutes from my door.
Oh, wow.
Right. So I've played everything there. That's Forest Creek is an underrated place there in Pinehurst, amazing place. And then obviously all the other ones.
If you had to rate
number 4,
2, 4, and 8, how would you rate it?
Gosh, number 8 is actually my favorite.
Everybody tells me that.
I mean, I'm a big Fazio fan. I mean, it's just me. I just like his designs, big greens, undulating. It's got a lot of really cool structure, force carries. I mean, 4 looks a ton like 2 now. The new redo looks very similar.
Is that who did that, Doak?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, I think so.
I'm sure I'm wrong about that. I'm not sure.
I think it's Doak.
Yeah, but the design is, the cradle's amazing.
Is it really?
Of course they built. Yeah, it's such a cool little thing. We'd go down there and you play 5 rounds in like an hour.
That par 3 course at Bandon Dunes. I've
seen that pictures.
Play. It's so good.
Yeah.
I mean, you talk about the place that's got your name written all over it, Sutton.
Yeah.
Willamette.
Is that where the Punch Bowl is?
It was Punch Bowl, but they got all the Willamette Pinot you could ever want. Whether you like cigars or not, they got a ton of awesome cigars there, and it's all self-contained, and your cell phone won't work. You're off the grid, so like they can't find you. And it's 4 or 5. Well, Sheep Ranch opens in July. That'll be 5 of the top 10 public golf courses in the world will be housed in one location.
Jeez.
It's phenomenal. They got the par 3 course, which is 13 holes of awesomeness, and the Punch Bowl. You can literally stay out there with lights on until 1 o'clock in the morning, and it is golf heaven. And I've been to Ireland. I've been to Pebble. I've played Augusta National twice. It is all awesome. They're all great, but there's nothing like Bandon Dunes. Nothing like Bandon Dunes.
I'm jealous. Yeah, I gotta start traveling more. Now that Nick's in college, maybe I can start doing some of this stuff. Yeah,
it's like you're a little bit ahead of me because my boys are in 8th and 6th grade, and I get a chance to coach them here. I get a chance to coach my oldest son here coming up next year. So I'm pretty excited about that. But
are you teaching them? Are you their swing coach?
Yes. And I've taken a very now my oldest son is starting, he's daddy's boy. So he kind of loves the idea of understanding the golf swing. And he likes to look at I'm like, where did my 7 laws of the golf swing go? Oh, and he's over there reading it. I'm like, well, if there's a place for it to get lost, that's a good place for it to get lost. Mm-hmm. So I teach them both, but I was of the influence that I wanted my kids to love golf, not need to be good at it. Because I said, listen, when we go to St. Andrews, I want to look across the room at 4 o'clock in the morning and see your eyes because you're so nervous because you can't wait to play. I don't care what you shoot, 104 or 64, but I just want you to cannot wait to go play. And that's what I've tried to build in my kids, which is just the love of the game, because I get too many things given to me out of this great game that I would want to share with them. And I don't want them to feel like if they're not good, that I don't want to play with them. I made that very clear from the beginning. I love my boys and I want them to enjoy the game because I get a chance to do it a lot. And that's where I started. So they love the game. They're now getting good enough that they can hate the game. Like we all can. And, but that's the coolest part for me is to watch them start by loving the game, trying to understand the game and why I love it so much. And then just the mere fact that mommy was a 2-time national champion of Brazil, one of the greatest players in Brazilian history. And I do what I do.
Genes are there.
Yeah. So it's part of the family's fabric, is golf.
Yeah.
So they love the game. One of my favorite everything is like they wait for me. They stand by the first tee when I get done teaching golf and I drive to the club and they're just waiting. They got their Oakleys on just like me. They got their Callaway hat on just like me. And they're just little scientists. They can't wait to go play with Dad.
So cool.
It's the greatest moments.
Well, you're not telling me anything. I mean, you've got a lot of cool years ahead of you, but you're doing it the right way. I did the same thing with Nick. It's like I had no expectations of whether he's going to be good or not. I just wanted him to respect the game and love the game, and and they just want to be with Dad. They want to be, that's just natural. So they're going to have that opportunity, and we're fortunate to be able to provide that, and they can get as good as they want to get. Yeah,
I think that the biggest thing that I tell people all the time about golf's not going to die. I mean, it might not ever reach the numbers that they thought, but golf's not going to die because, number one, there's not much left in this world that you get to spend 4 hours of time out in nature, competing-ish, playing a sport, and people will love to be together. There aren't many of those things left too. There's hardly anything that's more of a trump card in business than being able to go play a great golf course with somebody. And that's what I try to foster here at the school with these kids. Like, I know y'all want to play on TV, but just know that the worst possible outcome is that you get to play a great round of golf and you'll be able to use that for business. And there's a reasonably good chance that you might make more money on the golf course doing business than you will doing it playing golf for a living. And that's really important for me, is the love of the game and understanding that this game is power, because this is such a hard game that when people who also play the game recognize that you got to be good at it, they also know what kind of work ethic you put in, what you're willing to do. And they also understand that, you know, you have to be adaptable, because sometimes you're driving it good, sometimes you're not, but you still got to figure out how to score. And the learning how to score is like learning how to survive in group meetings and learning how to survive in a group atmosphere to create a great version for a team. And, you know, that's what it's all about. And it's just a great training ground to learn life while being outside playing a game that's impossibly hard and bizarrely simple. It just depends on which way you want to look at it.
Sure.
So
absolutely. That's very well said. Is there anything that I haven't asked you that you want to talk about before we close?
You know, the only thing that I think it's important, I always try to ask people this perspective. This past year, 2019, we got a chance to witness the greatest comeback in the history of sport. And not just because it's Tiger Woods. And I would tell you that I'm not a gigantic Tiger Woods fan. I wake up every day and I thank David Ledbetter for creating the golf teacher job. And I thank Tiger Woods for elevating our sport to a level that's unbelievable, really. Mm-hmm. But for people that don't like Tiger Woods, like I would almost classify myself at some point, I was there. I'm not sure anybody's ever been as good at their sport as he was at golf. And maybe barely did Babe Ruth, and maybe barely did Wilt Chamberlain. But I'm not sure that anybody's ever been better than Tiger. But I would say that in November of 2009, I don't think we've ever seen anybody fall farther down than he fell. Then you factor in that his body's fallen apart with all these surgeries. Now he's addicted to painkillers. Now he nearly kills himself and could have killed others in an accident while being on Ambien and about 9 other things, to then rise back up off the mat. And I called him dead. You've probably been on multiple shows in which I said, we're not going to see Tiger Woods again, period. I know too much about how bad his back is. I know how much he's struggled with the mental part of his game, because a lot of what he went through in addiction counseling destroyed the ego that made him so great. So right. Knowing all these things, I'm like, this guy's done. We might just forget that we're going to see that. For him to rise back up and overcome not only the physical errors and the physical, the injuries and the mental shame of making a mistake in his life that billions of people saw. I mean, Guru, if you and I do something wrong, like 17 people know about it. He had like 5 billion people look at him. So the amount of shame that he took on first of all, he put on an image of perfection only to find out that he wasn't perfect. And we shouldn't have bought into that, because we should have known better. But we bought into the fact that he was perfect. And then that disappointment led to shame for him. And it was very difficult. But when he overcame all of that, I tell people all the time, if you think that you can't overdo it, just think you're probably dealing with 1/3 of the pain that Tiger was dealing with, because he had the physical, the mental, and the emotional pain at 10 out of 10 and overcame it. And I just believe that that's one of the greatest. I'm blessed, and we're blessed to have seen it all: the rise, the fall, and the resurrection. Yeah.
I always tell my kids that, Nick wasn't even born, in 2000. Mm-hmm. Didn't get to see him at his prime, and they're still a fan. Yeah. It's amazing how many kids are still fans of his, but be able to see him come back, and he's a huge Tiger fan like me now, and I'm so fortunate. I wept I'm not afraid to say it. When he won the Masters, I cried.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was just like, oh my God, I can't believe this is actually happening.
Yeah, I think that I've never been happier in any one of my victories as I was for Tiger Woods' win at the Masters. And I've never been sadder than when Tom Watson lost to Stuart Sink.
Yeah.
Like there's no victory that I've had that meant more to me than Tiger winning. There's no loss that I've ever encountered that hurt me more than Tom Watson not winning that Open Championship at Canterbury.
I agree.
That was unbelievable.
That was hard to watch. Yeah.
But I mean, that's to me is one of the things I try to pass on. That's one of my big stories in the book is perseverance and overcoming. That's a gift that he gave us, because most of us are going to struggle with something. We're gonna either have a bad break in business, we're gonna have something that we've done that's hurt people, and that kind of hurts, or something that gets done to us emotionally that affects us emotionally. Most people have to deal with one, maybe two of those, but not many of us are going to have to deal with all three at the same time and do it in front of millions. And he is a beacon of light of perseverance and resiliency and adaptability that can be used forever, because he did it in front of millions and billions, both at the high and the low. And that's what I'm going to take away from Tiger Woods going forward. And I always tell that story to my kids. That's what he means to me. And that's why I'm a huge fan because of that.
And I think what can't be overlooked is the change in mindset for him, right? So in his early days when he was beating everybody's brains in, he had the ego. He kept everybody at arm's length.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't have very many close friends. And then now going through this transformation, now that he's a father, that was the cool thing, right? Of him hugging his son and his kids, being there as well. But he's let himself and let other people help him.
Mm-hmm.
He's got friends now. He's got, he's very well liked. I mean, it couldn't have been, I thought the cool thing really coming full circle is when he played the President's Cup deal.
Yeah.
That happened with him being the captain and everybody really responding to his leadership. That could never have happened 10 years ago or whatever, 12
I think when he was injured, he filled in as a captain selection somewhere when he was hurt.
Yeah, he did.
And I think it was at a President's Cup. It was
Ryder Cup.
At the Liberty National. And then he did it at the Ryder Cup and then took over the President's Cup.
Right.
I think that's when he became a legend to those guys, because he opened up. And I remember Snedeker talking about how much he learned about, I guess we call it decade system now, about course management and how he thought. Like he single-handedly played a huge role in the victory at Hazeltine. That's where he made his Ryder Cup impact, was at Hazeltine, about how he single-handedly set up the game plans for the pods. And
I hadn't heard that.
And that is cool. Okay, I can't imagine sitting in. All right, I can't. Was it Davis Love was the captain there? I think it was Davis Love. All right, guys, gather around.
The pod system was
Azinger.
It
was Azinger, but I think Davis Love was the captain at Hazeltine. I'm pretty sure he was.
Yeah, you're right.
And so today we're going to talk about the game management, and I'm not going to talk. I'm just going to bring in somebody else. Tiger, come on over. Tiger, talk to us about how we're going to play and what you see on hole 1 through 18. And he just kind of lays it all out and helps everybody understand their strengths and weaknesses. So he did a deep dive on everybody's strengths and weaknesses, their stats, and then he broke down how that if he was them with their game, that's what he would do. Wow. Hello. And that's how he became such a hero to JT and Ricky Fowler and Patrick Reed and Sneds and all the people there. That made a big difference. And who ever would have thought that was possible in 2005? Nobody.
No,
and that's
no chance.
And I would say that in our lifetime, I don't know how far you can go back, because I didn't start playing. The first time golf ever came into my life, I watched the 86 Masters. The only thing that could tie 2019 Masters for its legendary status. And I was like, this sucks. It's Easter Sunday. My grandparents are watching, and I'm like, this is terrible. That was my first experience with golf, as the 86 Masters. I'm not sure how much those, like the moments like that, matter when it comes to who's better, what's more important between the Jack or the Tiger. But how many of those? I think Arnold Palmer was the last legend to be a mentor to so many. I guess Jack has a little bit, but you don't hear much about Greg Norman being a mentor to many. You don't hear much about Nick Faldo being a mentor to many. I can be Tom Watson a little bit, but they don't hear much about Tom Watson, although I know that he has with Brant, but you don't hear much about it. But Tiger is taking that mantle very seriously. And it's kind of fun to watch because we get a chance to.
Great to see. Yeah, it's great to see because, and that's I mean, he's figured out that he wants to leave that kind of legacy.
Yeah.
Not the one where, he's talking bad about other players and not really letting anybody in. He's actually embraced that mentor role, which is going to, I mean, that's how he's going to leave his mark on the game ultimately.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it's the long game, man. I mean, like I said, these kids that are coming up now, it's funny. He's playing against kids that probably didn't even see him play in his prime.
Yeah, and like think about, he's making an impact on people that he shaped. What a powerful feeling that must be. I think that of all the things that probably you and I are looking forward to is maybe when we're 70 years old and whatever, we have people talking about how maybe we've helped them. That's got to be a really cool feeling that I'm not there yet.
Leaving a legacy is I want to show up in as many testimonials as I can.
Yeah. Jackie Burke said it best, man. You've had a great life if you can fill up a church when you're dead.
There you go.
And he goes, you want to talk about something that's so profound? You know how important Arnold Palmer was? He filled up 3 churches. The one where his body was and 2 others off site because there were that many people there to see him. So that's a great, I'm not going to be Arnold Palmer, but if I can fill up a church, that means I've done something. And that's one of the pictures I put out every day in my life is that statement from Jackie Burke. I want to live my life in a way that I can fill up a church when I'm gone.
There you go. There's your second billboard, my man.
Bang. There you have it.
Hey, let everybody know how they can get a hold of you, how they can follow you, and how they can pick up a copy of your book.
Okay, so my book is available on Amazon. It's Elevated with Virgil Herring and Drew Maddox. My social media handles, I'm at Virgil Tourspin on Twitter, Virgil.Herring on Instagram. My golf channel website is virgilherringgolf.com. And I'm open to anybody calling me. I'm 615-579-5190. I look forward to answering any questions after this has been listened to. And Jason, thank you so much for having me on your podcast, and I'm very grateful to be here.
Everybody. Thanks so much for your time, and keep doing what you're doing, brother. You're making a difference.
I appreciate it, buddy. We'll have you on my show here really soon, okay?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
All right, buddy. Have a good one.
You too. What's up, everyone? Guru back here again with a couple of details before you jump off. First, big thank you to Virgil for coming on the show and spending so much time. It was such a fun conversation, him sharing his incredible knowledge about teaching and life that I know will help you all become better coaches and also better human beings. Make sure you follow Virgil on Twitter at Virgil Tourspin and on the gram at Virgil.Herring, and give him a social wave and say thank you. He even left his phone number, so it's pretty cool. Also check out his new book called Elevate with Drew Maddox. You can find that on Amazon as well. Thank you again to our sponsors, NVDHemp.com. That is NVDHemp.com. Make sure you use the promo code GURU20 for your 20% discount. And then also go and check out my app on the App Store if you got an Apple phone at Golf Guru app, as the price has never been lower. $19 a month, $99 a year, and you're going to get way more value than that. So go check that out. Also check out my website at golfgurutv.net, where you can find videos, articles, and more information on my teaching and coaching. This episode and all episodes of the Golf Guru Show were produced by myself, Jason Sutton. Music is by Kevin MacLeod and Zach Mullett. And as I always leave with you, the infamous Jim Rohn quote: study, practice, teach, and then pass it on. Thank you so much for joining me. Talk to you next time.